Good afternoon. Welcome to our regular board meeting and vision session. We are going to stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to get started so we stay on track. We will have a board member, as we say, coming in hot, but do not let that distract you. She will be making it. She's getting stopped by many traffic lights, as she said, on her way coming in. Can I get roll call?
Mrs. Alkire. Mrs. D'Angelo Steele.
Here.
Dr. Dillon.
Here.
Ms. Liskini.
Here.
Mrs. Peterson.
Here. We will now get a motion for adoption of the agenda.
Madam President, I'd like to make an amendment to our agenda.
Yes?
I move for items 7 through 12 to be considered separately from items 1 through 6 and 13 in the financial section. These are motions to join different organizations, and they're worthy of public discussion.
Accept it. I would like to accept that amendment. We need a second amendment. I'm going to make an amendment to add the OPSI contract to the board agenda. Making sure Hugh's ready for us.
I got it.
Okay.
So we'll need a motion to amend. The first one is we can do it all in one.
Yep.
Doing items 1 through 6 and item 13 as one agenda item, and then breaking out 7 through 12 in the fiscal section.
Yep.
Yes.
And then the second one would be adding the OPSI contract to the agenda.
You got it.
Yes.
Can I get a?
You said 1 through 6 in what section?
In the
Fiscal section.
Fiscal section.
So 1 through 6 in the fiscal section,
1
and
through
then
6 and number 13,
in number 13
and then separately, it would be 7 through 12 separately.
separately. And would that go under board discussions or just put under different?
It'll still be in fiscal section. It'll just-
I was going to say, it's going to stay in the
Yeah.
fiscal section,
And you can discuss,
and we're going to discuss each item under 7 through 12 individually for
So present as
roll call.
Two
Nope,
different
that-
items for action,
Yep. You got it.
and then adding. Do you need to think for that one, or do you want to do OPSI and that together?
all that together.
All that together. You got it? Can I get a motion? Dylan made the motion. Can I get a second?
Second, Liskini.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes. Now we're going to move to the approval of meeting minutes. We are bringing forward the motion for approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which would have been February 2nd. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Liskini.
Second, Dylan.
These are actually the January 29th meeting minutes, not the February 2nd meeting minutes.
Thank you. You see, I did pause in the sky like, what day is it? Thank you, January 29th.
We just not have the other ones ready for now.
The other ones are not ready.
The other one is Monday the 2nd, yes.
It's a little busy in between now and then.
Listen, I am off, and that snow day did not help because I'm still thinking January 26th for a Monday, and we met on a Thursday. Thank you for the correction, Hugh.
We knew what you meant.
Thank you. We had a motion, and we had a second, correct?
I didn't get those. I didn't write them down.
Can I get a
So
motion?
moved. I move.
Okay, got it.
Can I get a second?
Second, Dylan.
Any discussion with the meeting minutes for January 29th?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, I will take roll call.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Alkire. Mrs. D'Angelo Steele.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Just a-
We just took approval of meeting minutes for January 29th, Chelsea, so you didn't miss anything. We're right on time. Now we are going to move forward in the agenda with the visioning discussion session.
Do you want to update her on the changes to the agenda? Or did
Oh,
she know?
yes. Just to update you, we made a amendment to the agenda.
Okay.
The two amendments were, one, to split up the fiscal section, and that is to do items 1 through 6, plus the last item, number 13, as its own section to pass. And then the second separation is 7 through 12 for separate discussion and vote approval. Okay? And we also added the OPSI contract to the agenda for your awareness.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Caught her up. Thank you, Denise. Now we will move forward with starting with our vision and discussion. I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Lusher. Dr. Lusher and Dr. Bowser will be helping us today. We're going to do some presentations to start out for some additional information that the board members would like to have some further information on. But you're also going to see them throughout the day, helping us to facilitate our discussion. It's going to be very helpful because then that allows for me and Vice President Liskini to play a board member and not also navigate following of the meeting. So you will see them participate a lot.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, President Peterson, Vice President Liskini, members of the board, Mr. Banks, Mr. Garside. So we are here today to provide information that we had conversation when we finished up our last kind of pre-visioning session, and there were a couple of topics that the board had requested some additional information. So our team has worked together to put all of that in front of you tonight, and then that will segue into some facilitation. We'll use some Socratic seminar strategies and be able to unpack so that we can elevate some of those priorities so that our district can continue to work under a unification of purpose to support all students. So with that, I'm going to transition to our EL department. We are very fortunate to have Mr. Ed Kennedy and Andrea Galoni, who facilitate and lead this program, and all the people that are wrapped under their care and their expertise. I am biased, but I go way back with Ed Kennedy. He I'm glad he's speaking to me, but I stole one of his best and brightest when in other districts we would come over to learn about how they structure and model instruction, whether it's SIOP, whether it's the use of bilingual assistance. I'm not going to steal his thunder, but the model that we've built in Southwestern is definitely a model and example for the state. So we're very fortunate to have he and Andrea here to tell us a little bit more. So it'll be the first topic that was requested at the last meeting. Thank you.
So, leave with everyone just so it's a little bit easier to follow. I'm going to apologize to you ahead of time. I had a little surgery on Friday, so my mouth's not working exactly right, so see how everything goes. Again, President Peterson, Vice President Liskini, members of the board, Mr. Banks, Mr. Garside, happy to be here to have a chance to talk about the EL program here in Southwestern City Schools. So in the effort of moving through, if you look on the back of that first page, we'll get to this in a second, that's going to be very important information when we talk about the goal of any EL program, primarily English language proficiency, second language acquisition. Those are the areas that we'll cover. And then down at the bottom, we have the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce, how they grade us, how they gauge what we do as far as OLPA testing is concerned. So I'll get to that in a minute because there's some key differences there that we want to talk about. First of all, when we talk about the enrollment of EL students in the district, I was at Norton Middle School when the first 6 identified ELs came into Southwestern City Schools about 30 years ago, 32 years ago. Currently, right now, we sit at 4,096. We're projecting right now 4,159 identified ELs for next school year. So if you look at the breakdown of our district and you try to figure out what we're looking at, we're talking about 23 to 24% of all students in the district have a connection to the EL program. They're either currently identified ELs And we have about 2,400 students who've exited our programs who are part of the district as well, who those students they graduated at a higher rate than anybody in our district. They've done a great job once that English language proficiency kicks in, but there are still families that need support. And so we'll talk about that here in a little bit too. By the number, 79 different languages and dialects today. If you check us with us next week, it could be at 74, it could be at 81. That number is very fluid as families from all around the world make their way into Ohio, into Southwestern City Schools. We are one of the primary relocation districts in the state of Ohio. There are a lot of families that come into the state of Ohio. They come to different states throughout the country, and Southwestern City Schools has a reputation of being a school district that everyone belongs here. And so we really have a good word of mouth as far as the programs and the staff that we have who are prepared to help our families and our students. If you go back now to that first page, on the back of that first page, the 5 stages of second language acquisition. Today they call it pre-production, early production, all those things that you see. Most people who've worked with EL for a number of years really look at it as a 1 to 5 scale makes it very reasonable to figure out where a student is as far as their English language proficiency. A 1 is a newcomer, a 2 is a beginner, a 3 is an intermediate student, 4 is advanced, 5 is proficient. The state has kind of changed the terminology as far as those 5 things are concerned, but really you're talking about going from newcomers to proficient is where we want to get to. And again, the goal of every EL program, goal 1, is English language proficiency because it helps give kids the tools they need to be successful in whatever it is they want to do. In Ohio, when you see our report card, Ohio has gone to a system where a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago, where they take everybody who takes OELPA, the Ohio English Language Proficiency Assessment, they get a score of a 1, 2, or a 3. A 1 is an emergent. That means kids are scoring 1s and 2s in the 5 domains. And so really the 4 domains of language are speaking, reading, writing, and listening, and then comprehension, you use a combination of scores to determine comprehension. So within those domains, if all the scores are 1s and 2s, then they're emerging. If in any of those areas they score a 3, they could have 1s in everything, but they score a 3 in listening. That's the one that typically goes up quickest. Then they're determined to be progressing. And then if they score a combination of 4s and 5s in all those domains, they're proficient. The problem we run into is if you look at progressing could be a kid who's 1s in everything and a 3 in listening, or they could be 3s in everything and a 1 in writing or a 2 in writing. And so trying to determine what needs those students have, that's really part of the work of our department, and it's the work we do with our buildings to try to determine what's the support that kids need. And so if you look right now at that second box, if you go now to the page that has the graph and the number on it, in the last 3 years in Southwestern City Schools, about 52.7% of all ELs who enroll in Southwestern as new students enroll as newcomers. And so that means what we're seeing primarily, above anything else, we're seeing a lot of kids who are scoring at that pre-functional, that newcomer, or that beginner level, or it's actually their first year in U.S. schools. And so when we talk about those kiddos, we're talking about kids who it's their first year in U.S. schools, or they're scoring at that 1 or 2 level. We're starting at a much lower starting point as far as English language proficiency is concerned. But again, for us, all we care about is growth. So we get those kids where they are, and now how much can we grow them? And so while we're working with them to become proficient in the English language, the nice thing that we have been able to see over the years, despite the fact that, really, just last year, it was 56.4% of our kids who came in were newcomers. At the end of the year, we're still showing that anywhere from 75 to 86% of our kids, depending on which grade band we're talking about, are scoring at either a progressing or a proficient level. The majority of them are scoring at a progressing level, but even if they come to us as newcomers, you give us a year's time with them, we'll move them to progressing. The typical research on how long it takes to acquire a second language, 5 to 7 years. If you're grades 8 or higher, that jumps to 7 to 12 years. Our data has shown us over the years that in Southwestern City Schools, we move our kids to proficient usually within 4 to 5 years. So we're able to keep growing those kiddos year after year. We're able to show consistent growth. And even though the numbers start much lower, we're able to move those kids along to proficient, towards proficient, much more quickly.
I hurt my back is all.
We're a beat up.
Yeah, we're a mess right now. Hi. Just to continue on what Ed said, can we go to the next slide? Just some things to look at when it comes to our department in particular. We have 3 goals, which are very consistent with the state of Ohio's goals, as well as any other district you'd come across. But our first goal is just, we are trying to get these students to English proficiency. I know sometimes people see this as possibly bilingual or something like that. We are trying to get our students to English proficiency in all 4 of the domains. That is what we are working on. The other 2 goals really just have to do with the fact that we do still have the same expectations of these students achieving the same standards as all other students. Even though sometimes they are operating at a grade level lower, we still are trying to get them at that level of these other students. That's what our other goals have to do with. We'll get into kind of some of how we reach those goals. But one of the things, I love the what's your plan that we put out there, because just like all other students, we want to know where our students want to go after high school. Their ultimate goal is graduation. And I know that's hard sometimes when they come in as kindergartners for us to think about that, but their ultimate goal is graduation, and what are we doing after? And sometimes that can change, not necessarily the way we work with our students, but when we get a student who's 16 and they don't have any English yet, what are your plans when we leave this school, and how can we help you reach those goals? And that can kind of change our projections on how we're going to work with them. Like Ed said, there are scientific research put out there of how long it takes people and students to learn another language, but one of the main things, basic interpersonal language, is what we see in the hallways. Kids talking in the cafeteria, how they talk with their friends. I've had many people come up to me, this kid speaks English, why is he in EL classes? I'm like, you haven't seen him read and write though. There's a completely different situation with that. A lot of us could go to other countries and within a month, we can operate on a day-to-day basis. Science shows that that happens in 1 to 3 years. That's conversational skills. But in order for them to get their academic language, where they're passing our tests to graduate in the state of Ohio, science says it's 5 to 7 years. We don't have that kind of time when a kid comes to us when they are 14 and older. So we have a lot of things in place to try and expedite that process. And one thing we focus on most in our department is oral language. We truly believe that in order to read about something, to write about something, you have to be able to talk about it first. And so I put some pictures up there that are really representative of what we're doing. There's a girl in a middle school class, they have a word collection on the wall, and every time we come across a new word, we're gonna put it up there so we start looking at it more. And this is stuff we see in elementary schools, but like this is for all kids. And that's a middle school class. I have elementary kids up there in the hallway with a teacher learning, and at the bottom it's intermediate. And if you look at the one girl standing on her chair with her arm in the air, like she is saying something proud. I don't have no idea what she's saying, but she's proud of it. And I think that confidence in our kids is going to make them reach new levels when it comes to actually having to write the things on the test, which is where they do struggle the most. And some of the ways we are doing that is through our resources. So I put 3 main resources up there that we are using. Last year, we had a group from across the district for an EL review committee. We included gen ed teachers, EL teachers. We included from the Grove City to the West Side. We included kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade. And some of the things we found that we needed were better resources that are more intentional for EL students. So we use teacher creative materials mostly for our 3rd and 4th graders, because that's where we're seeing the biggest language gaps. Kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grader newcomers are still going to be learning the language along with their peers. Even an English-only speaking peer is still learning the language in kindergarten through 2nd grade. We still have EL services, but it really gets intense in 3rd grade. Flashlight Learning is a really awesome resource we have at our intermediate school. It focuses a lot on your production of your language, so writing and speaking. And the really cool thing about it is a kid will do a speaking task and they get feedback. And sometimes that feedback is their own teacher, but sometimes it's actually the company, which is really cool because it lets us know if our teachers are kind of being biased because they know the kid and what they're actually trying to say. But from that talking part, the kid is able to produce a writing sample. And what we're really trying to hammer into these kids is there's a process when you write. We don't just start writing. We need to think about what we're doing. And it's also hitting home that if you can talk about something, that's when we can write about it. It usually doesn't go the other way. And then in our middle grades in our high school, we just recently adopted National Geographic as a resource. It can be used as a comprehensive everyday thing, or our teachers, some of them have things they already know and love to teach, so they're kind of using it in pieces and parts, but that really helps because it's intentional for our ELs. And one other thing that we've really noticed is our EL students are very transient between our schools in Southwestern. And this helps a ton because if they were doing National Geographic and they were doing level 1 in the LIFT unit at their school at Finland and now we're at Norton, we can stick you in that class that's learning that exact same thing. The pacing could be a little bit off, but it's really helping with that transiency. So that's something we really like to focus on. And one other area, this is mostly in our intermediate and above, we do have content support for our English learners when they are outside of English class. So the way our EL department is set up, when you're in elementary school, you will never have a teacher of record that is an EL teacher. You are strictly pulled out of class for EL services, or sometimes that teacher pushes in with the general education teacher. Once you hit middle school and high school, your language arts class is an EL class taught by an EL teacher, if that makes sense. What we have then is when these kids go to math and science and social studies, they still need support. What we have in those places are teachers who have been trained through the SIOP model, which truly is just best practices for all students. This is something that any kid can benefit from. It's not just ELs, but we have teachers who are trained in that, and when possible, we have an EL teacher push into that class for extra support.
So community partnerships, it's the key to what we do. I think as a district, this is a district that has done a great job of bringing in as many of those community partners as possible. And so if you look in the paper there that you have, there's a list of all the different partnerships. As far as opportunities, the what's your plan, we have at times, we had a partnership with Ohio State for the longest time where we were helping to train medical interpreters. We currently right now are working with New Mexico State on bilingual customer support. Chris right now has been a wonderful resource for us as far as providing mentors at all of our middle schools and high schools. They're really working a lot with our Somali families, our Ukrainian families, and so they just provide an awful lot of support for us. The Abubakar Islamic Center here on the west side over on Sullivan Avenue, we have a great partnership with them. They've been great about helping us to get information out to families. They've been great about coming in and helping staffs to understand some of the cultural things or the cultural issues that can pop up from time to time, just great partnerships. But if we want to talk about the support we have that we rely on the most, it's our 26 bilingual assistants that are now called language support assistants. So they're LSAs, they were known as BAs for the longest time. Our language support assistants, their primary job when they first came into the district, they provided help in classrooms. Over time and working with the Office of Civil Rights, they said probably better for that group to work to help families. And so they have really helped us over the years provide a lot of support for our families. We currently have 26 of our LSAs in Spanish, Somali, Ukrainian, and Hakachin. And then we had last year, we try to meet every couple of years with everybody in our department, our SIOP teachers, our TESOL staff, everyone who's helping us out to try to find what are the things that you feel like you need more support on. And so what we found was we had used something called Marty for the longest time, a telephonic resource that wasn't working very well. As one of the results of working with our staff, they said, hey, what about Propio? So Propio, we saw on a visit to Columbus City Schools, was a resource they used. It's a wonderful resource. I came here right from the enrollment center. When I left, we had a Spanish-speaking language support assistant working with 2 Spanish-speaking families, and we had a family using Propio to help with Ukrainian and a family helping using Propio to work with Chilean Creole, which is not something we've had a lot of requests for in the past, but it's just wonderful that all under one roof with a combination of people in that resource, we're able to provide the supports that they need. In our district, we don't say no to requests for interpreter or translated documents. Now, sometimes it takes a little longer because some obscure languages are tougher, but we feel like, for years in this district, what I've always heard is Southwestern City Schools is a district for all students, and if it's a district for all students, then we have to go out of our way to make sure we provide resources. That's what we've modeled this department on. We have tried to make sure that we build the programming building by building so that needs are met within the building, and then across the district, we've tried to make sure what are the needs that we have and what are the things that we can do to support our families. So those LSAs are vital to everything we do. So in a nutshell, that's the department. And so that last one says, thank you for letting us present. And if there's any questions you have, we'd be happy to take them at this time.
I do have a question. I don't know if this is the time or the place, but when you were mentioning the statistics over the last 3 years, 52.7%, they meet the newcomer requirement. How are we addressing that when we're at the enrollment center? When kiddos are coming in, are we able to, when we're enrolling, are we doing any diagnostics for any student, whether it be an
No.
EL student?
There are some
Special
districts
education
that
student?
do diagnostics. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you.
no.
There's some that do diagnostics upon enrollment. For us, what we have always felt like is we want those enrollments to happen in the building because we feel like from the very beginning, we want our staff to know their students. And so what we do at the enrollment center is we try to make sure that we provide a heads up to buildings that, hey, here's someone coming. Again, this Chilean Creole family, I was in conversation with that building principal today to say, just a heads up, here's what's coming. Let's start looking at how do we build some resources. But what we really want is we want those kiddos to come in and we want them tested at the building level because it connects them to that building. And so I think for us, just from the enrollment standpoint, there's 100 things going on while they're there. And so we have not looked at doing that.
Okay, thank you.
I have two questions. In regards to, so our students are about proficient in 4 to 5 years. How different is that than the state average?
It depends on where you go. Like just from the overall state average, that is it depends if it's a district that has a functional EL program, because there are some districts that have a very comprehensive EL program, and there's a lot of districts that have a developing EL program. And so it's probably a little under for the entire state, but if you're talking about those comprehensive plans, it's pretty much on pace where a lot of those districts are. There are some districts that do a great job of that, that's more of the 3 to 4 years. And those are typically districts that have a little more resources, but more than anything, I don't want to throw any of my district friends under the bus, so I won't mention any names, but I've spoken with some folks from some districts who say, hey, we have about, 2,100 kids where, I know you guys are bigger than us, but we're a lot like you. Well, let's take a look at who are the population totals that are coming in, and really more than anything, what's the comparable English proficiency level? Because a lot of these kids who come into some districts come in at a very parallel or a parallel plus as far as education and even English language proficiency is concerned. And then there are a lot of districts who have students who have had interrupted formal education, or they have just not had the standard of education that some others have had. So it's pretty much on average if we're talking about developed programs. If you're talking about programs that are underdeveloped, then it makes us look really good, so.
And are there, given the large size of our population in comparison to our overall district, are we not getting enough support, say, from the state, not just in terms of dollars, but in terms of programmatic support, maybe research using our district as a means of piloting new programs?
The one thing that I would say that you can be proud of as a Board of Education is if they're doing anything research focused, they come to Southwestern first. So I was looking just this past few days at the state's plan for, which they never had before. So all of a sudden now there's actually a fairly developed state plan on how you should educate ELs. And it comes from a study from West Ed that was performed over the last few years. And in speaking with the person from West Ed who did the interview with our district, we talked for almost 3 hours. And so if you go back and you look at that state plan, it is very much like the plan that you would find in Southwestern City Schools. And I don't think that means they think we're smarter than anyone. We just have been playing this game for a long time. And we have a pretty developed program in place. And so I think for me, I've been part of the State EL Advisory Board for the last 15 years. And so I feel like the state does a good job of reaching out on things. Sometimes I think there are some directions that they take that are counter sometimes to the EL Advisory Board's recommendations. I'm sure that happens everywhere. And so I wouldn't say that's specifically something for us. I would just say, like anybody who's on a committee, sometimes I wish that there were more conversation around some things. But I think overall, the state has done a pretty good job of supporting, and I think we understand what the game is. That really helps a lot.
And last question, so the 26 language support assistants, what type of ratio are we looking at?
So if you look at our district, as far as our population is concerned, about 70 to 71% of all of our ELs and EL families are Spanish-speaking. And so the biggest proportion, the biggest ratio of the 26 BAs are Spanish-speaking. And then Somali Arabic is the next biggest. And so we have language support assistants who speak Somali and most speak Arabic to some extent. So sometimes there's times that we'll have to rely on agency interpreters to help us a little bit with the Arabic piece. And then Hakachin was this exploding population probably about 10 years ago. Unfortunately, the gentleman who kind of was the head of that community passed away, and the numbers kind of flatlined a little bit. There's a lot of folks that came from Indianapolis right to Columbus, and that was the big Hakachin population. And so we have a district Hakachin bilingual assistant, and then our Ukrainian numbers these last few years have increased more than any other language group, about 6% over the last 3 years. And so we have a district Ukrainian language support assistant as well. So more heavily Spanish than Somali, and then Hakachin and Ukrainian. I believe we're the only district in the state of Ohio that has a Hakachin and a Ukrainian full-time interpreter. I know we were the first in Central Ohio when everyone was trying to find a Ukrainian interpreter. It was a former student of ours that we found who does a great job.
What about the support assistant to learner ratio?
So here's what we try to do. Rather than support assistant to learner, we do a support assistant to family ratio. And so what we try to have is we try to keep it at about one language support assistant to about 175 families, because really what happens is they're reaching out to those families on a regular basis. And so whether it's emailing, making phone calls, a lot of those families, there aren't families they check in with every day. Some of those families, they're families they check in with every day. And so our Ukrainian was the one that we're most concerned about, because her numbers went up to about 220 or 230. And when we talked to her about bringing somebody else in, working with personnel to see if that's something we could do, her feeling was, I've got this because I have such a great relationship with the Ukrainian community, and what I don't want to do is I don't want to send a mixed message on anything. And so we're working with her on that because, again, we're very fortunate to have her. But we keep an eye on those numbers all the time, because that's what we're really concerned about is there a tipping point where it's too many families? And so our personnel department has been great helping us to staff what we need as far as language support assistants are concerned.
Thank you.
Sorry, Ed, when you guys gotta reach out to your outside agencies for interpreter assistance, do you have a delay?
We do, yeah, we do. And-
I wondered that. I was hopeful that maybe it was faster for the kiddos, and the social worker with older adults, we find that we're rescheduling and counseling visits because our interpreter's not available.
Right, well, and sometimes,
services.
unfortunately, somebody just doesn't show up. And
Yep,
so,
we've had that.
in any time that we can, what we really try to do right now is we really try to use our in-house district support, and then Propio has been a great resource
Yeah.
for us. And so we've really tried to move in that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm always amazed. I know you, with the Proprio, I think it was about a year ago, around last March or something, I know you presented that, and I'm always amazed to hear what you guys do. I think it's wonderful. I know we always want to help you and do things, but you guys are doing amazing things, and I hope we'll always reach out, let people know what you need help with or what's happening, but I feel like we should reach out to you, and you should be helping us because you have such a.
We're so lucky that Andrea has been with us in the
Yeah.
position she's in right now. She just brings she's taught at every level.
Yeah.
And so just a wealth of knowledge for us. It's been a great addition to the staff, so.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So a thank you to Mr. Kennedy and Ms. Galoni for their tireless efforts. I think one of the themes that you heard there was that, we went to Columbus Public to look at their enrollment center because we wanted to do a better job welcoming our families, right? That's their first access point and getting to build a relationship with us. And along the way, curiosity and a desire to improve led us to Propio, which now, Grove City PD and other local law enforcement entities are using because they've seen our success with it, right? So when you think about that at the building level and supporting children, I need medication, I got hurt at recess, just those day-to-day pieces where language is a barrier, our team is committed to, looking at opportunities as a way to improve. And what I'm led to just think about is one time I was proctoring a test to a student, it was a math test, and it was an EL student. And the student was asked to construct a table. And this child drew a picture of a table with 4 legs. And part of me was like leaping for joy because he knew the word construct was a fancy word for make, but he didn't know the multiple forms of the word table. And so I think what I'm proudest of with our team is their willingness to think about how to remove those barriers. In creative and innovative ways, they work really hard and they ask for very little. So when you have a dark day and you need your spirits lifted, go follow these two around because you'll literally see them just, out there making things happen. Okay, so we'll transition now because another topic that was brought to the table was really around this idea. Next slide, please. Thank you. About accessibility. And then that's also threaded into, we are handed a lot of federal law. There's a lot of state activity, especially in the summer session as we get everything but the kitchen sink in the budget bill, right? And that impacts state law. And then we work very tirelessly to make sure that our board policy is up to date, right? So that involves pruning the garden and letting go of old language, but also integrating the current state and federal requirements. So Title II was brought up, as well as we think about what we call the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And so within this slide, there is a link to a lot more information if you are interested. I know many of you have a lot of insight into the public sector, worked for universities, as well as other public school districts. So we're all dealing with this on some level. But essentially, I wanted to break it down in a couple of pieces. You'll see some board policies come before you. In terms of what we're doing internally with our teachers, you're going to see our AI policies, obviously, that focus first on our teachers. We think of the gradual release of responsibility. I do, we do, you do. We're working with our teachers right now. Dr. Bowser and a couple of our folks at the district office are working on an AI task force to look closely at how we think about how we as educators are using AI. And then as we release responsibility when students are ethically producing things using AI, that we can create those systematic approaches to this tool. And then we transition into this idea of what's public facing and what our community and our parents need as they interact with our district website. So I'm going to transition first to, I think, Rob Moore to talk a little bit about the website if he's here. Oh, Evan, you want to go first? Okay, so our team, this is a shared approach. So this is an example of project-based work. All right, so you will hear from Evan Bowe, you'll hear from Rob Moore, and then we'll segue into Nicole's world where we talk about accessibility and adaptive resources for granular pieces, our students tied to IEPs. Make sense? Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Lusher. Good afternoon. As Dr. Lusher had laid out, there's essentially obviously 3 key stakeholder groups we're looking at when it comes to Title II implications and WCAG 2.1. For our shorthand here piece. So in terms of the public facing piece, it's a little bit of a crossover with some internal communications mechanisms through my office as well too. So probably 30,000 square foot view, there's a huge disparity on new expectations for, just frequency and use of JPEGs for things versus PDFs. So Meredith and I, when we're working through the print shop, some things, or working to help a building host a file online, it's not uncommon for us in this new age of Canva to get this really nice, bright, shiny thing that's been exported and sent to us as a JPEG. That's a single source file that a screen reader, for a student or somebody who's visually impaired. There's approximately about 266,000 Ohioans that are severely visually impaired. So we want to make sure that we are trying to implement processes and reorienting some of those staff members that have those great, flavor of design pieces in there to, put that into a PDF. So that is something comprehensive that we'll look at multiple kind of stacks of files. Rob had mentioned last time at our last presentation, and I want to make sure it's not, something we gloss over is we go through a lot of file size in my office. We have drives and drives and drives, whether it's the content piece, and this is only going to add to it when we add all those complex layers of kind of going from the JPEG route to the PDF route as well too. The other piece for the public-facing component is, as we're working through, and I spoke last week a little bit about changing some of our high school web pages over, is I gave about a conversation. I try to be a friendly guy, but as I could to our folks that we were training at the building level, when you hand that baton off, and I've just got a brief brief little box up there you can kind of see in the wings about alternative text for images, right? So, I mean, that's been a push. That's something that Meredith and I have taken on, and Katie in my office as well, too, from the district side. But as we're transitioning things over, and there's going to be some more building hands in the pot, that you have to have that WCAG 2.1 compliant piece up to prescriptively describe what is going on in the image, so that the appropriate technology, assistive tech, can go through and read those kinds of things. As Dr. Lusher had mentioned as well, too, you have tons of resources in here, but there's so many different pieces that are going to touch how students learn, how families interact with us, too. It kind of blends into what we just heard from Ed and Andrea as well, too. And then again, as we're vetting different systems, and I don't want to steal too much of Rob's thunder, whether it's Senate Bill 29 compliant from the security side of things, but also, too, we're vetting to make sure that they have the capacity to be compliant with WCAG 2.1 before we bring on any other additional vendors. So that's kind of my elevator pitch on the 3 different stakeholder groups that we're monitoring with. And then, again, it's I do, you do, we do piece with working through our BTCs at each individual building to help kind of quarterback that in a site-based way. So, Rob?
Thank you. So I just want to talk a little bit about a couple of the tools that we're going to be using here to kind of help with WCAG. As you know, we're a Google district, and we integrate with Google really well. Google Classroom works great. Chromebooks. Google has spent an absolute ton of money on accessibility features. Chromebooks have built-in screen readers, voice-to-text, magnifiers. The list goes on and on. They've done a great job with their Chromebooks, and they do the same thing with their products as well, as far as Google Classroom and other items. The one I wanted to call out, though, was the Notebook LM. So if you haven't messed with Notebook LM, it's kind of neat. I think it's actually really neat. But so basically you just put text in, and you can have it do a couple different things. So I've used it and put user manuals in there that are huge, hundreds of pages, and rather than trying to search through everything, you can type in, ask it a question, and it'll find it. The user manual will tell you this is what you need to do. One of the other neat things I tried not too awful long ago was I actually took board policy, which, as everybody knows, is not exactly exciting reading. I put that in Notebook LM for the staff acceptable use policy, or I'm sorry, the student acceptable use policy, and had it create like a 6-minute video that was actually really enjoyable to watch. And you can do the same thing with audio files. You can make a podcast out of it and stuff. It has a lot of really neat features. So I definitely think in the future that a lot of our teachers are going to wind up using Notebook LM to kind of help with some of those accessibility features. We look forward to that. There's a couple links there to a couple other products. Our Forms, Adobe Acrobat Pro has a lot of accessibility features built into it. And then some of the Tableau reports that we use in Infinite Campus have the ability to do some accessibility features, and Tableau's in the process of creating a tool to make current Tableau dashboards and things WCAG compliant as well. So that's all I have.
Okay, so before we transition to Nicole, I think, importantly here, there are things that we have to adjust that are there, right? So we've got to go back and I would say an audit of such, which Meredith and Evan have been immersed in. But then additionally, as we look at these other resources, these are tools that will allow us that in real time from hereafter to make sure that we are compliant and we have those accessibility features already embedded. And hopefully it won't cause our teachers any additional work, right? And there won't be, 2 copies of things out there. So it's kind of a, for the now, this is the focus of our work. But as we integrate and we continue to meet the compliance features, what are we using that will make sure that in the future, as we generate content, that it's going to be compliant and just a matter of our practice systematically. So at this time, I'm going to have Nicole Tayo come up and talk a little bit about accessibility and then what that looks like in terms of individual student planning as it ties to eradicating barriers for student learning. So from things like, text to speech to how we, adapt so that we can support student production. And I think you heard Ed and Andrea talk about this. Our students have a very high level of receptive knowledge, receptive understanding, but it's that nexus between what we know and what we do and what we produce that really matter, and that's kind of where the magic happens. So I'm going to let Nicole talk a little bit about that, and then we'll leave time for some questions.
Hello. So assistive technology, in my world, this is we look at it from 2 different perspectives. One for communication, and then the other for accessing their education, students' education. So we have 3 people that work in this area, not full-time, but this is their specialty, so they kind of take it on. we have one person that really focuses on the academic piece. She's looking at things like, you know, the text-to-speech, the Lexia, just different programs and access things that we can give them that aren't readily available. I will say, since Google made all their changes, it's been great. We are not nearly spending the kind of money we did on those kind of apps like we are now. So that's been great. But she'll also look at things like magnifiers. On the screen, you'll see there's a display up there that it will magnify anything you put under it. In anything from one of those to just a bar to put over the kiddos' words, okay? So that's really her focus. She works on it out of the SET model, which is Student Environment Task Tools. And what we're doing is looking at the who, what, where, when of what that kiddo needs and putting it into that framework as we're talking with parents and teachers at the building. The other aspect is the communication piece. So this has exploded lately. We have different models. We have low tech, high tech, and low, mid, and high tech. And the low tech is your picture schedules. You'll see the teachers walking around with little icons on their badges and they'll say, stop, and there's a stop sign on it, right? Those are those low tech kind of easy, quick things that every child can benefit from. The mid tech is, what you'll see up there is the red button. It's called a Big Mac switch. Those are switches that we use and we can pre-record answers. So if a kiddo is sitting at circle time and they're, you know, trying to do the calendar and we know we're gonna pre-plan that we're gonna ask that student a certain question, then we pre-plan it, we pre-program it, and when we get to that question, we can ask that particular student that question, they can push their button, and then they can participate in the group. Okay, so, you know, it takes a lot of thought, a lot of practice, but once you get into it, it's like, oh, that's super easy. It takes me 2 seconds to walk over and say it's Thursday, you know, into the machine, and we can get the kids involved. So we have really expanded our use with that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Then we have the high-tech devices. We have everything from the rest of things that are on that the board up there. Those are GoTalks, those are LAMP, those are Proloquo to go. Those are apps that we use on the iPads. Quick talkers, they're called. So the kiddos can push the buttons based on what they have to say. We have to teach them how to do that. It's a process to teach them how to do that. A lot of time it's the motor planning we have to figure out, like how do we teach them to actually push those buttons, and they have a meaning that comes out when you do that. So we have a process for that. And what we do is we have a referral that goes through their SLPs, so their speech and language pathologist works with the teacher and says, I think we might be able to give, you know, Nicole a way to communicate a little bit more clearly. And we go through this assessment, and then that SLP works with our assistive tech person for the communication, and they put together an assessment, review it, and trial some different things. So just this year, as of right now, so as of the 6th, we have 97 students that are using district iPads, okay? And it actually is a little bit higher because we have some classroom sets, but individual students that I have signed out, 97 of them are to direct students. We have 133 students using their own personal devices. So, and for those of you that don't know, the school usually helps the families by going through their insurance, helps them bill for those and go through that process. It's very extensive. So that's a lot of work on our SLPs. And then we have 31 devices that we set up to trial in every preschool classroom, which is huge. It took us a while to build those iPads. Wasn't, 31 right out. But what it does, it gave us the opportunity to do that with the younger kids and give them earlier access. So 261 kids are using high-tech devices. If you look back to 21-22 school year, we only had 35 students that were using the district iPad. We have 57 at that time that were using personal devices. So it's 3 times as many, right? We decided that there were some things that we could probably change and make more efficient. And one of those things was the preschool. So all these little ones are coming in, they have trouble speaking, whatever. We wanted to give them access, but it was kind of getting bottlenecked. So we decided to put one in every preschool classroom to give them access. And I need my water.
I was gonna hand it to you. You might have drank
Lord,
that
what
from
is
me.
going on?
Is that right?
Sorry.
No.
Every time I'm here talking, it does this. Okay, much better. So we have one in every other classroom. The kids have the access to the apps, and we're teaching them very basic, you know, when you want to go to the bathroom, then you push this button type of things. Then this year, we, in our RISE classrooms, we have now set up a iPad in every one of those classrooms to help those students, which are more significant, more needy students, have a way to access their communication. A lot of times you'll see them using the Big Mac buttons, but we have several that can actually use the lamp, more motor planning kind of thing. So it's great to see that. So that's exciting. We've also set up in those classrooms what we call as an assistive tech pack. So it has the iPad. It also has switches and toys that are related to Switch. So some of our students are using or need cause and effect toys. Like they're still learning that piece. So we worked with the Career Academy, and they actually turned a bunch of our toys into switches so they can, you turn the switch, the dog will bark. If you know, that type of thing. So we created those. We created Big Mac switches. We got a bunch of different programs from ABLE, which is a special needs kind of communication place. And we put them in a pack, and each of our classrooms now have one of those. So that's been a huge help for them this year. But our AAC SLPs, they go out in our district, they train our ESC staff, they train our staff, they train our teachers, they train parents, they train, you know, they work and continue to back up and keep trying. The only other thing I wanted to mention that we have had in the district in the past is we did have a robot at one of our schools for a student that for about a year and a half that could not attend physically. So he was able to attend using the robot, and it worked out really well. It was a learning curve for everybody. It took us a while to get it, you know, everything in place, but it worked out well for everybody. So there's a wide span of what we do and what we have available, and it's really exciting to see how much this department just in the AAC area has grown. So, do you have any questions?
I would think, but I don't want to make an assumption. When you are able to expose early in age with the devices, are you seeing like that exposure is beneficial with the growth and progress of those students that go through our preschool program if they're staying within our district?
Yeah, actually, we have some really good, strong data from putting the preschooler, giving them access there, that when they've gone and let's say they went into our CrossCat, a majority of those kiddos will end up in a specialized unit. So they went into our CrossCat unit. We were able to push them out into Gen Ed, and pushing them out into Gen Ed, obviously with support, they had help, you know, and using those devices, their reading levels increased a grade level, at least, if not 2, in some of the classrooms.
Okay.
So they've had the access, they're out in the Gen Ed getting that great content from the Gen Ed teachers, and then having the access to be able to share what they know.
Yeah.
Because when they can't share what they know, they're just like, they don't know. It's fine, you know, but they were able to show. So it was exciting to actually see that. And I'm like, how'd you get this result? Because I know the kiddos. I'm like, how'd you get that result? You know?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we used it on their device. I'm like, yes. That's a good thing. That's what we wanted. So.
Yep.
Thank you so much to all of you for presenting. It's, as a tech nerd myself, it's really great to see, even with today's American Pediatric statement on screens, that it's not just quantity, it's quality. And hearing about the technologies, whether it's physical or digital, that are available to not just our learners, but our teachers and instructors as well, is really exciting. And this is probably a question more for Dr. Bowser and down the road. But I'm really curious to see how we are incorporating more universal design for learning and finding that some of our peers in the preschool, you know, benefit from these things. I see my own children will use a screen reader or a speech to text because it's just easier for them to do, and they're finding ways to be more accessible, even though they may not be formally diagnosed, and making that all accessible for all is an important part of feeling belonging and learning new things in a world where they're expected to know these things.
I'm so glad that you said that, because that was going to segue into, you know, when you think about some of these tools, every child would benefit from this. A typical peer who hasn't formed language, when they're frustrated, what do? We hit, we kick, we bite, right? We don't have language. And when we think about, you know, our learners that struggle, and it may be just be in one discipline. We see them task avoid, they avoid orienting to work, and sometimes it's just a structure to get them started, or like we talked about, that nexus to produce. And so when we think about accessibility, it's a continuum. And I would argue that, you know, fine motor is good for every kid. You know, when you look at their ability to produce text or to select items or to, you know, again, as they orient to work, it is part of the entire continuum of learning. And it was just like what Ed and Andrea said, you know, sheltered instruction is just really good instruction. And all children can benefit from that. All children can benefit from Tier 2 vocabulary acquisition. So I think that's one of the things that's the most exciting when you look at our model with preschool. Although the effect size she's talking about is with our students that need additional supports, our typicals are showing growth too. And that just oozes of good instruction when you think about that end in mind or universal design. So there's a lot there, but I think it's going to segue into our visioning, so we can get there. Any other questions at this time from this group? Okay, speaking of barriers and challenges, we're going to now hit our final and probably most heady topic. We're going to talk about transportation. And so before I turn it over to Mr. Detterman and his team, you know, what I would say is the end in mind. We very much believe, you know, in appreciative inquiry, but also when you set goals, you want them to be aspirational as well as attainable. So I can say that as a department and as a district, it is our goal to get students to school in a timely fashion and to get them home in a timely fashion. And so when parents call us and they have concerns, they're not wrong. We want the same thing they do. But many times due to a landscape of human capital, or, you know, there are construction issues, or we don't have enough, you know, support. All of those things kind of bundle into that piece. But at the end of the day, our goal is the same as every parent in this district, which is to provide reliable transportation in a safe manner to get our kids to school so they can receive instruction, and to get them home so they can get engaged in all those extracurriculars that they have. So Mr. Detterman is going to provide an update with his team, and then we'll leave some time for questions.
Good afternoon. I think we only have about 3 hours of content for you that we're going to try to shove in 20 minutes. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak about transportation tonight. I've asked Justin Hagenstein to join us tonight to help us with this conversation. As you may know, Justin's not been here for a year yet with us. He's quickly approaching that 1-year anniversary next month, and we're excited to have him on board. So we're going to kind of give you some background, some layout, some information. We'll talk about a couple different areas, and then we'll kind of wrap up with some of those challenges that we have. Justin.
Good afternoon. So we're going to start with our routing. So for fiscal year in 24 and fiscal year 25, we had 174 routes here at the district. This current year, we have 166 routes. A lot of that is because of the human capital. 51 of those are special needs routes. Over the course of a day, we travel roughly 13,544 miles every single day. That comes out to roughly 2.6 million miles a school year. As far as our staffing, we have 186 drivers. 20 of those are sub-drivers. 10 of those are everyday sub-drivers that we have. And the other 10 is occasional plus field trip drivers. We have 77 aides, with 28 of them being occasional subs. So those will fill in on our special need routes. But if we do have, on a good day, no call-offs, those 28 subs will fill in on our regular ed routes as well to help with some driver needs. Student load. So we transport roughly 15,500 students every single day. 14,700 students of those come to our public schools. 1,230 go to 14 either community or parochial schools, either in the district or outside of the district. So later on, we'll kind of talk about in lieu and practicality and what that kind of all pertains. Last year, we completed 6,566 athletic trips. This is not including our supplemental trips that we do throughout the day that could be getting some students to like work programs or some other things throughout the district. That number is not. That is strictly athletics and field trips that we do. Next slide, please. So the next part is transportation safety, which is a huge topic. The first part we'll talk about is our fleet. So we have a huge fleet in. Yeah, sorry. There we go. So we have 214 units in our fleet. That is all buses. Our replacement plan is 14 units per year. The national average for buses is 12 years, 150,000 miles. The buses that we are putting up today, later on for proposal to be approved to purchase, would be 14 new buses. The buses that those are actually replacing are 18-year-old buses that are close to 250,000 miles. So one thing that we look at during our replacement is the year, age, mileage, but we're also going to be looking at some different aspects of maintenance cost. Are they passing our annual spot inspections, our annual recert inspections? So those are all different items that we take into consideration. Next slide, please. So every year or every day, our drivers have to complete a pre and post trip. This is a federal guideline that we have to do. A few years ago, we bought tablets for all of our buses, and we are starting to utilize those tablets to their fullest potential. So we purchased a program called EVER, which allows our staff to complete a pre and post trip with that tablet that we already have here in the district. That ensures that we are federally compliant with all of our logs. Next is our annual bus inspections and spot inspections. So in the fall, we just completed our spot inspections. So we have a trooper that comes out and ensures that all of our buses are state compliant and safe for all of our students to be transported to and from school with. After January, we actually start inspecting our buses for the upcoming school year. So we are starting that process right now, and that will go through typically August is when we'll have that. Then we'll go back into our spot inspections. Implementations of safety. So I've been working on a brochure that we'll be putting on the website, as well as be able to give out at our first time rider event that will talk about boarding procedures, how to board a bus, what things to look out for, what should you do when you approach a railroad crossing, different things like that, as well as when to stop for a bus. So we are putting all that kind of information in a brochure that we can hand out to our parents, as well have on the district website. Some things that we started this school year is on top of the school bus, there is a white strobe light. Other slide. Yep. On top of the school bus, there's a white strobe light. the law states that that has to be on during low visibility or inclement weather. One thing that we added to that is asked all of our drivers to have that on 24/7. The reason for that is that light is bringing more attention to that bus in all weather and lighting conditions to ensure that we are bringing as much attention to the bus to ensure that our students are safe. In July, we received 16 new buses. If you can look at the top right photo, you'll see 2 buses side by side. So when we received our 16 new buses back in July, we actually added an LED stop sign that's reflective as well. So you actually can see it during the sun. It will reflect that light off of it. But in the dark, when we are picking all of our students up to get them to school, we want to make sure that that bus is being visually seen. So we actually did put those on all 16, and from the photo, you can kind of see the difference between the 2 different buses of where that stop sign drastically is different for approaching vehicles. With the proposal tonight on the 14 new buses, we actually have included the school bus sign that is actually at the top of the window. So that is the same technology, it's fully illuminated as well. That way, when you are approaching that bus, you can't sit there and say, well, I did not know that I was approaching a bus. So it would be as bright as possible. As well as at the bumper, there'll be 2 strobe lights that will be flash the same sequence as the loading lights and the warning lights. That way, we are sitting there doing everything we can possible to ensure that we are getting these students to and from school safely. Next slide, please. And at this point in time, I'll turn it back over to Monty.
So a couple things we wanted to bring in is some of the state requirements. We've talked about these a couple different times, but as you know, walk boundaries is a big conversation with families. The state requirement for walk boundaries is 2 miles. As a district, we have a different gauge that we use. We kind of have broken it up into the different grade levels. So that K4, 1 mile walk zone, the grades 5 through 8, 1.5, grades 9 to 12, 2 miles. We say that's our standard, but a lot of our buildings don't even go that far. An example, Harmon Elementary doesn't have a walk zone. It's not safe. So we have to take into those considerations every time we're doing walk zones on a building of what's the roadways, what roads are they crossing, what's the sidewalks in the area. We evaluate that every summer because there are changes that happen in the different jurisdictions that, hey, maybe they've added a crosswalk somewhere, a lit crosswalk, or they've added sidewalks to a neighborhood. So we evaluate those as we go. So I know last year we had a couple areas we readjusted a little bit, but that's one of the state standards. The other piece is the non-public charter schools. If we take a look at a trend across the state, we have seen a statewide trend from fiscal year 21 through fiscal year 25. Ohio schools have seen a decrease of over 26,000 students to public education. And there's been an increase of over 23,000 students to the charter non-pub schools. So that brings a lot more to the whole conversation of the non-public charter and payment in lieu. We're 119 square miles. There's a lot of students that live in our district. We are responsible under the law to transport these students to their school of choice. Now, there are some limitations, but most of these schools don't fall within our 119 square miles. They fall well outside of that. So every year when we bring you those impracticality resolutions to look at, we're taking a look at those factors. So we kind of look at what are we doing with that? Is this going to be practical for us to do or not? And there's different categories, and there is under the law, there are 6 different areas that you can use for deeming that impracticality. Things like time and distance, how long it takes to get there. And I'll tell you, it's a little weird calculation because it's not from their home. It's from their school of residency to their school of choice. So it gets a little weird that way. How many kids are going to there, What's that cost going to be? I can tell you right now in our calculations that Justin was doing this last summer as we were prepping for some of those, you can see somewhere in the 5 times calculation of what it cost us for our public school students versus some of these community non-charter schools. It's about a 5 times increase on most of those. What kind of impact is it on our existing routing system? What impact does that have? As you may not be aware, but the state of Ohio says that a 3-tier system of transportation is the most efficient transportation you can use in the state of Ohio. Meaning, we break up and have a driver run 3 different tiers in each AM and PM section. So that's what's the most practical. When I start running outside of the bounds of the district, it becomes difficult for us to have 3 tiers for that driver. So now I've just taken that driver who could be doing 3 tiers in our district, now they're down to 2. So there's a cost factor in that as well, but it also disrupts our ability to do our transportation within the district. And then you got things like comparable services, you know, are you transporting all the grades? One of the things in there, grades 9 through 12 are optional transportation in the state of Ohio. They are not mandated. We in the district believe it is very important that those students have the transportation. Because we offer it to our students, I also have to offer it to non-pubs and charter schools as well. And then alternative options, you know, there are ways you can do it outside of transporting. You know, are you going to cooperate with an existing school district or neighboring school district to try to partner and do some of that? One of the things that we've been doing, I know last year we talked a little bit about, we stopped transporting outside of a school boundary for preschool or daycare. If, you know, if your daycare wasn't in the school boundaries, we're taking a bus out of the boundary of where it's doing its transport to drop you off, then to try to come back in. That's taking time away from being able to do our routes. So we kind of cut those boundaries a little bit. The other thing is the total number of students that we have that are coming in now requesting transportation for non-charter, non-pubs. That number in the last year has more than doubled on how many are coming to us. So that continues to grow. Other factors that come into play, we have McKinnon-Vento students, homeless students, and addressing those issues. We have requirements under the law to transport them. Sometimes we're able to do partnerships again with other districts where we can say, hey, you pick them up, we'll bring them home, or we may have to go through a car service. So there's different things we do through that. And then, you know, driver certification. It is not like your standard driver's license, which is very important. So under the state standard, you have different areas that you have to do different things. You have to get a permit. So you have to go take your CDL permit test. That's a written test that you have to do. You have to have a minimum of 12 hours with one of our onboard instructors. We have several of our drivers have been certified as what the state calls onboard instructors. We were recently audited on that process as well with the state and came through that really nice. They appreciated our documentation that we had for that. So they have to spend a minimum of 12 hours. We're seeing anywhere between that 12 and 30 hours that it's taking drivers to get that. Because at the end of that onboard time, they need to be ready for that driving test, where they have to go with a bus and they have to actually go through and do a full pre-trip with the state person that's going to give them their license. And then they also have some driving functions in that. And then there's a state pre-service theory course that's required by all drivers, which is about 15 hours in length as well. So those are all the different aspects that go into becoming certified. So the day you come and say, hey, I'm going to drive for you, I've got all these hours that you got to get in. You got to get your permit in. I got to get you set up with the state to get through your coursework. So it does take a lot of time to do that. So some of the other challenges, obviously staffing. This is not new. It's been ongoing. As Justin said earlier, you know, the 186 that we have as drivers now, including some of those daily subs and some of those, we call them conditional subs, because I can only work Monday and Wednesday, I can only work AM or PM, or I only want to do field trips. We'll take anybody that wants to do any part of time, we'll take them. And, you know, I've been at job fairs with Mr. DeCastro and talking to people, and like, well, you know, I got a job, but I'm looking at other jobs. I said, well, you want to do this one while you're waiting, and we'll get you in to do that. So we have a different variety of different pieces. So when we talk about staffing, obviously what happens this is that when we have drivers out for whatever reason, they've got a medical, the doctor, they've got a family member ill, they've got a parent that they're helping take care of, you know, the standard human capital piece, right, we all deal with. So when they're out, with the small number of subs that we have, that's where the strain comes in. So just an example, if I have 15 drivers I can't cover with subs, those 15 drivers, remember we run on the fiscally smart 3-tier system, that's 45 things that I have to cover now, just in that AM. So that's where it starts building and growing for us. So that kind of adds into it all. There's been some recent data pulled on the state of Ohio and school bus drivers. This is national too, but the workforce in the Ohio school active bus driver has seen since COVID outbreak a 27% decrease in the number of drivers registered in the state of Ohio for school buses. Take a district of our size in Franklin County with another district that is the largest district in the state in Franklin County, and you start adding up that compounding of the resources of those drivers that don't exist out there anymore. Technology, obviously we've done a lot. Justin was talking about some of the things that we're trying to leverage, use. Transportation has been something that's been very paper-based over the years. And so we've started trying to leverage some of that technology so that we can do some different things. When we were reviewing several years back about our routing software and applications, we were looking at two things predominantly when we looked at that. One, wanted to move away from some paper. Justin said he's being federally compliant with his pre and post trips using that kind of stuff. Right now I have boxes and boxes and boxes of little slips of pre-trips that we have stored in a corner of the transportation office because I have to keep those. So moving electronically is going to make it so it's more efficient for us to be able to deal with that. But we talk about different things that when we were looking at this, we were like, okay, we know we have a shortage. We have people driving routes that they're not normally driving. What we used to see back in the day is you would know when we had a sub bus driver on the bus because you'd see them driving down the road like this. Because in one hand they had the steering wheel, the other hand they had a piece of paper telling them where to go. And, you know, not to say that they didn't have another 30 crazy drivers on the road in front of them that they're trying to pay attention to, 40, 50 kids sitting behind them they're trying to pay attention to. So one of the ideas was how can we take that paper distraction out of their hands so they can do what they need to do to be safe? And that's a turn by turn. So that was one of the features we were looking at for that technology, was to give them that ability that the route's programmed in that system and can give them where they need to go. The other big piece that we saw was parent access. We did not at the time have the ability for parents to know what's going on with their bus. So those were things we were all looking at. Obviously, technology's fun and always comes perfect and never has any glitches or errors. So yes, we saw some issues with some of our technology. We saw enough issues with the technology with the help of our data team and Rob's department. We were able to track and inventory the daily issues that we were having. We sent that to the company and they were flabbergasted that we had tracked and recorded what we had recorded. They came back to us with a discount on our prices for this year due to that issues we had last year. I'd have to say that I hope this is as wooden as it could be. We've had a much better year technology-wise from that perspective with them. It's not done, it's not over. We continue to stress with them, and I've got to go back to Rob's data team, who's been so supportive and helpful with us on monitoring, following up with the company, and looking at those situations, giving them the data they need to tell us, oh, we know what the problem is. So that's been very helpful. It has been an issue. We hope the company has done a pretty good job of addressing it. We have not seen the issues that we saw last school year, this year. But we need to continue to monitor that and track that as we continue to move. Not to say that we aren't also looking at the same time, is there other options for certain things? What I want to caution on that is when you're looking at a system of this size, we have to be able to integrate all functions. So that means student information system into a transportation system. You may have seen last year, another school district in central Ohio had one out and changed their transportation software, and then mid-year said, uh-oh, and switched to something else. We need to avoid that. So that's what we continue to look at and evaluate that. Some other challenges that we have in our district that are kind of unique, obviously, we go from rural areas to inner city. This past week, I got to tell you, our drivers were driving in some really interesting conditions. You saw your neighborhoods. How many people didn't pull their car off the street? Well, that narrow street that's now got a plowed car in it is even narrower for a school bus to get down. So, there's a lot of challenges in some of those tight streets. The challenge in the rural area is I don't get to do group stops. That makes my stops or my routes that much longer in those areas. So I'll take a Darbydale for an example. I don't have a lot of group stops in Darbydale because I can't. Whereas in the inner city or in the city areas, we have more group stops. We look at that. But always have conditions that pop up, whether it's weather, whether it's, road conditions, or someone gets delayed at a stop because a parent's asking a question, all those kinds of things. So that kind of takes us into that late notification piece. It's our priority that our drivers are safe, and they know it. They're focused in on driving on the road with all the other drivers, and then the students behind them. So it is difficult for them, per se, to really be clock watching. Their focus needs to be on the road and on their students. You'll see in the picture, I kind of threw up a little map up there. That is actually our GPS software that we can look at. And if you look at that map and kind of take our boundaries of our district, you'll see a lot of different things. I see some bus numbers, and then I see these circles with numbers in it. Well, that's how many buses are in that area right now. So from a, thinking about an airport and you're just kind of doing that flight navigation and all that, there's too many dots up there to be able to track for the office staff to say, oh, I know this bus is running late. So we do rely on the drivers when they do get to a point where they're stopped or in between stops where they've had a break a minute, they can see, I'm running late, I'm going to be late for my next tier. Or I'm so far behind this because there was an accident. They make those calls, they come into the office then puts out the robocalls or makes an adjustment to some of the applications like Stop Finder. So they're doing that as they're going down the road, doing all those other things. And we just don't want them to take that focus away as a piece. We want them to focus on the safety of their students. So with that, we'll take some questions.
Who want to go first?
I just have one question. I know we talked last year about this with the Stop Finder app and the compliance of drivers using the app, and I'm wondering where we are today with that.
I'm going to have to let you answer, 'cause I'm not over there enough to know that.
Do we want to
So,
address that?
as far as technology goes,
Yes.
it'll be fully mandated next school year. So with the Ever and Wayfinder, this being my first school year, I'm working with the drivers on more professional development, on ensuring that they are comfortable with that technology before we do implement next school year, that it is mandatory across the board.
And I'll say the company did make some modifications in this last year on how that Stop Finder app works. And so it is becoming more and more important that the Wayfinder is running, which, by the way, Wayfinder is the turn-by-turn piece, that's running, because then it will automatically give an estimated ETA on the Stop Finder app, which could take away the responsibility of a driver having to call in and a robocall happening if the parents are using the apps. We're still doing both because we have some parents that don't necessarily want to use the app yet.
I'm always excited, as a parent that gets 75 messages a day and from other parents who are upset. So I'm really excited to hear that because I know data was asked for previously. So it's really great that you guys have the data and you followed up with that and are seeing some money back with that, because that was ridiculous what was happening there. So I'm glad to hear that part has been taken care of with that data feedback, and looking forward to seeing all these things going into play and updating, but that's really good to hear.
And what I can say as far as the money piece, so we actually received 50% of the cost for StopFinder
Oh, good.
as our,
That bad, huh?
Yes. That was like, all of my questions was about this software. Like, what is happening with the equipment, and do we need to revisit? So you kind of hit on that. My next brain thought was, did we need to be looking into other software options if this was not getting better? I know you said the issues that we were having seem to have improved, but there's others. So I don't know if I want to hear it out loud. But I was thinking, well, did those improved? Are we having new issues? Usually when other ones get addressed, you tend to find, oh, now we have some more. Is there any new issues? I'm curious.
So I would say two things, because I think the balcony view and what I'm hearing is, once we get to 100% fidelity,
Yeah,
and Wayfinder is being used to its full capacity, which means whether I'm a sub bus driver or part of our day-to-day operations, I'm using Wayfinder. Once that is implemented with fidelity with 100% of our buses, then that enmeshes or triggers then the TransFinder for parents.
Okay.
Right now, when you don't have that fidelity, right, and then
Yes.
with and again, using data to provide, to warrant the claim.
Correct.
This is malfunctioning, it's not working, even with our folks that have it implemented, it's not,
yes.
you're not providing the service you told us you were
no.
going to, which was why we got the 50% back. I think that's a critical piece. So what I would say to you is, we're gonna monitor that.
Please do.
And then see if with fidelity, we see then an improvement. Because when you think about anything, whether it's curriculum, whether it's a change in leadership, I mean, you're looking at 3 to 5 years to see any kind of effect size. So our team wants to stick this out to make sure that we can answer those questions and see what the true effect size is.
That is fair.
The other nugget I would offer, and Hugh, you're gonna have to correct me if this is fake news, but when we think about it's an inside joke, but when you think about the magnitude just of our buses, it's a $40 million industry with about $21 million, I believe, that we get from the state. The rest is ours. And when you look at things like transportation for our homeless populations, that's $5 million. You know, when you look at the non-chubs and parters, when you look at those partnerships that we, you know, again, I think we err on the side of grace, but when it's 5 times the cost of what it costs us to transport our students, and if our end in mind is to make sure students get to school in a timely fashion and a safe fashion, and they get home in a timely fashion and a safe fashion, all of those incremental, it's death by 1,000 cuts, right? So I think what they wanted to provide for you was as much information as possible, and then as we think about as part of visioning, each one of these little granular pieces, we can kind of give you an update on some of those deliverables, right? We knew technology wasn't going to solve the problem, but our hope was that it would give us more timely information and keep kids safe and keep parents informed. And we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But we hope to be. So, I'm
That's
sorry.
fair. No,
I just thought
that's
that might be
fair.
helpful.
That was very helpful, because I encourage you, keep us informed. Keep us as the board informed as you are monitoring and tracking, because that is one, I'm sure, of all of us with this software. As everyone else say, it's an investment, and you want your investment to work. And if it is getting to a point where you guys find that it is not working for you, we have discussions with us, and let's figure out what we need to do.
Yeah, and that was one of the things, just, you know, Rob even just said to me a minute ago, no, we're not getting anything new that's coming in, because
Okay,
this
good.
team is really tracking a lot of that. But Justin and I last summer started looking at a couple different things that could be integrated without making a wholesale change.
Yep.
You know, is there a little bit of a tweak that we can do? Because the way it's set up right now is Zonar is a company that provides us the tablets through TransFinder. And so there's a lot of different pieces. Originally, we went down this path. We wanted to hold TransFinder responsible for all of it. I didn't want to be having 2 companies to battle with. It may be in our best interest to split that up again. We need to evaluate that, as Dr. Lusher said. We need to look at that more. With what we've seen this year so far, maybe we don't want to do that. But we are still looking at what's out there and saying, Is there something that maybe we need to tweak, or do we need to change one piece and go to something a little bit different, but still integrates with the existing systems that we have in place?
I think Hugh, was you gonna share
It's
something?
We roughly spend about 7% of our operating budget on transportation. It's about 24 million, not 40. And we receive about 12 to 13 million back from the state.
Okay.
So we're definitely not fully funded on what we're getting from the state as far as how we transport our students. I know the big numbers are big, but
That was from Evan. Quote me on that. Busted. Okay, so I guess my question is, we're now going to transition into some of the visioning conversations. Do we want to take a brief recess for you guys to stretch your legs, grab some water?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to adjourn? 5 minutes, make it quick, 5 minutes.
recess, not adjourn.
Recess. Adjourn for a recess. 5 minutes.
So moved?
Can I get a second?
Second, Alkire.
All right.
I know, I said adjourn like we about to go home.
She's like,
Can I
"That's
get a
it."
roll call? Not yet. Can I get a roll call?
Yes.
Ms. Alkire,
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
5 minutes.
See, I can make you
5
laugh.
minutes.
A roll call, bring us back.
All right, Mrs. Alkire,
Here.
Ms. D'Angelo Steele, Dr. Dillon,
Here.
Ms. Liskini,
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Here. Thank you, ma'am. Brought my coffee. Okay, we are going to continue back into session, and this part is where the board members are gonna help do a lot of talking. A lot of talking. I want board members to know, it does not have to be perfect. Nothing's perfect tonight. We gonna get our thoughts out there, and really put things out on paper, table, however you want to consider it. And then it'll get bundled up and wrapped up into a pretty bow later. Don't focus on like that. We have to have like this solidified thing tonight, okay? That kind of makes sense?
Yes.
All right. I'm turning it back over to
Yep, I'll kick it off.
Randy.
So much like last year, we've spent a lot of time going over some of the projects. Certainly what you've heard over the last 2 meetings is not an exhaustive list of all of the things that are going on in the district, but they are some of the important work that we are highlighting for you. And if you'll go to the next slide. And then much like last year, the Board of Education was able to elevate some themes that we worked on. So we had the student behavior, and we've really focused on respect in all levels. We had how customers interact with the district when it's not face-to-face or on the phone, but what type of technology through our website, what type of systems do we have in place, and how can we make them more customer-friendly? And then the community engagement and communication, that had a lot to do with the branding and how we're getting the stories out when people aren't necessarily looking for information from the district, but how do we project that information out? We also covered safety, recruiting and retention in a very competitive job market, and then we highlighted the facility condition and appearance, just making sure that we're putting our best foot forward and creating a good first impression for all of our visitors. So that's last year's, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bowser and Dr. Lusher, who are going to kind of guide us through an activity to help elevate some themes for the 2026 year.
I know, right? Okay. So let's first, you have been given some folders. If you might open those for me, please. All right, so you'll see you have a notepad for you to just, jot and to think. And the left-hand side, you will see, I'm going to reference this, which is the framework for learning. Okay? And then on the other side, you're going to see the organizational flow chart. So let's focus on the organizational flow chart first, because I want to do some brass tacks and then get back to big picture. Okay. So as we unpack the work and we think about everybody's respective scopes of work, this is our organization. We are lean, but we are leveraged to move forward with project-based work in a way that funnels through each one of these operations and departments, okay? So as we go into this, if learning is the constant and everything else is the variable, every single one of those roles, every single one of those departments is leveraging resources, whether it's time, finances, human capital, facilities, to unify, if you go to the next slide, to the most important work. Dr. Bowser's office in any organization, any high-functioning school, will tell you that this is the most important job. Everything that we're about, if we have a mission statement, if we have a bottom line, our bottom line are these two things. We have some of the best teachers I've ever worked in the field, some of the best administrators, some of the best financial minds. But our focus is this. We want to increase student achievement. We want to create a culture where every stakeholder feels that they belong and that they can exceed expectations, right? So that is what we're about. So again, if learning is the constant, everything else is the variable, that organizational flow chart shows you how we are designed to do that. Make sense? Makes sense. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so when we look at the framework for learning and we think about the work that we're going to do today, think about the governance of the board, working with unification of purpose, working with our administrative team, working with our associations, working with our folks that provide supports to students, whether it's academically, behaviorally, whether it's nourishing them through food service, whether it's keeping our facilities clean and safe, all of those pieces. But this loop, this framework, is a viable piece that we can think about as we think about the goals that you want to set as a governing team. And that feedback can look like updates. It could be deliverables or evidence that we use to show you what the work's effect size is, right? So you've heard a couple of things, like you've heard that language tonight, whether it was transportation data, financial data, any of those pieces. But this feedback loop is ongoing. And it's not ongoing like you're not like a hamster on a wheel. It's continuous because the work changes. As you improve, you formatively assess, and the work continues to grow. All right, so just want to reference that. Next slide, please. All right, so here is our essential question. Amber Noonan, you're here. You got this, right? Okay. So rich task, something that with that end in mind. So what are some areas of our work that you might like to elevate as priorities to sharpen our focus? So you've spent almost a full day listening to the work that we've done over the past year, and that is upon the shoulders of work that's been done before us. And I think that you can see our team is highly motivated, highly efficient, and had some focus areas last year. But as you think about everything you've heard, you have note cards that are in your folder. We would like you to capture some of your thinking right now individually. And then we're going to work, next slide, to share those out. We want to foster some collaboration, and then ultimately we want to connect those through lines for you. All right? So as you were like listening last time, you wanted us to come back and talk about accessibility, transportation, those kinds of things. Tonight, as you think about everything you've heard, from teaching and learning to special education to federal funding to career technical to how we use data to design instruction, all of those pieces, what are some questions, topics, statements that you might like to elevate? And to Mrs. Peterson's point, it doesn't have to be perfect. But if there's something that you're chewing on that we haven't discussed, get those down, and then we're going to foster some dialogue here. And again, if we're looking at that progression of conversation, we go with dialogue, which is we're throwing all ideas out there. And then we move to discussion, where we're talking about the evidence and where we are as an organization. And then ultimately, once we find those trends, our team will work towards declaration, right? Or making decisions. So what we need from you is feedback. And we need to help prioritize that feedback, okay? So I do, we do, you do. Now I'm releasing the cognitive work, and who's doing the heavy lifting? It's going to be you guys, all right? So we're going to give you some time to think independently, and then Dr. Bowser and I are going to facilitate some discussion so that we can find some through lines, okay? Okay, thumbs up if you need a few more minutes, because you're going to have the opportunity to share out. So those of you that are finished, you can just kind of wait for your partners in crime to complete.
Sorry.
No, you're great. Okay, there is no right or wrong, and this does not have to be comprehensive, all right? So we're going to build in grace to this, right? So Dr. Bowser is going to be over here, and we're going to ask you, now, if you guys had done this before, what we'd probably have you do is shuffle up the cards, and you'd have an opportunity to just read what's on the card. But we're going to ask you to be brave, and if you have something that you'd like to elevate that you've written down, we'd ask you to pick one of your cards to share it. And then as your colleagues are listening to you, it may be that you have something similar or that it connects to the topic that's being shared. So is there anybody that would like to volunteer to share one of their wonderings, one of their statements, one of their questions to get us started?
I'll go.
Okay, great. Chelsea.
So I just said that I feel like SPED seems to be a hot topic item in the community. And when I was listening, I noticed that intermediate, middle, and high school, the people in charge of each section all have 5 schools, but the elementary person has 16 schools. And that seems like that's a lot on one person. And how do we alleviate some of that or spread out some of that work to best benefit all of the students, staff, all of that?
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to take your card. Any other board member have something that could connect to special education, individualized instruction, or any of our special populations?
Yes.
Okay, would you be willing to share it?
Well, the one thing that I wanted to talk about was attendance and absenteeism. But in terms of special education, that is a piece of that, obviously. Outcomes and opportunities, and then support.
Okay, so Dr. Bowser, could you write special education, absenteeism, and can we put supports, interventions? Is that right? Like AIPs? Okay. Anybody else have something that ties into this?
So my brain breaks things down into subgroups. So this one, after I'm looking at my notes and thought process, it could go in 2 of them, just depending on however. But one of my subgroups I had in my brain was engagement. And then it was a bullet point underneath there, like staff engagement and morale. And then when they were presenting, it made me go to EL programming and continued support. But then my other brain thought went, I have another subgroup mindset of what I call stability and organizational capacity. And I have some other bullet points under there. And it's like succession planning, leadership development, professional growth, supports. So then part of me goes, that could tie in underneath there. So that's how my brain goes, but I'm in line with one of those.
Okay, so
of
we
the
could
special
put
ed.
student subgroups. And then staff would be another, yep. And we're going to collect all of the things that you have that are granular, so we can take those pieces, but in broad strokes here. Okay, anything with Ms. Peterson that you heard that connects with something you have written, would somebody be willing to share?
Yeah, my first go-to was about culture. Some of the things that I heard, retention is all about data. And I was like, what about the people behind that data? And it was pretty telling that some of our most important areas didn't have pictures of people on them. And I think I don't think it was, it's an implicit thing when we're thinking about at such a size. So how do our people know they're valued? And how can we cultivate a culture of belonging, especially at the staff and teacher level?
Okay, so we want engagement and belonging. That would fall under culture. Looking at students and staff. Okay, so let me just pause there for a second.
Okay.
I know this feels like a lot already, but if I bring you back to our two fundamental purpose pieces right there, to increase academics and to create a culture that supports every student, every staff member feeling engaged, that's our end in mind. Every one of those departments, this work can thread through with unification of purpose to achieve those goals, right? Okay, perfect. Keep going.
Yep.
Anybody can connect with Ms. Dillon said.
Yeah, I think with all of them, with the engagement piece, one thing that is the surveys. Again, I really enjoyed the surveys we did before. I think it would be, I don't know if it's doable, if it makes sense. I think we could tell by trends if people like it or not. But continue with the students, staff, and family surveys like we were doing. I thought that was really great. Kind of doing something yearly so that as you're doing all of this, you kind of have like your baseline. If there's some way to kind of incorporate the goals into the questions and kind of bring all this together. I don't know, working with that, but somehow incorporating surveys with everything to constantly getting that feedback from all the stakeholders involved. Yeah.
Okay, so voice, two-way communication, feedback loop.
I love how you hear what I say.
Yep. Well, we thought you heard you say what
I know,
it is,
I love it.
right? Okay,
Ryan's really
perfect.
good at translating for me. Thank you.
Perfect.
And
And we do have
a lot.
baseline, right? And we had isolated what historically had been a more comprehensive survey to some of those pieces that fueled the building improvement plans that funneled into the CIP.
Yeah, I
So
thought it
that's
kind
good.
of tied in with the customer interaction piece as well, kind of keeping with the goals, but adding that in there.
I looped that in under, when I was thinking, okay, Camille, with the engagement and measures, and I had surveys underneath it as a measure. And my thought process, to piggyback off of Denise, was with the surveys, is it changing up the format? Is it changing up how we are surveying? Are we doing groups? Are we doing a target topic so that we get what we're trying to get? Maybe it's switching up the format of the surveys so that it doesn't come so complacent or redundant, but
Yeah.
you're getting more feedback from it. So
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
I had that tied.
Yeah, there's more than one way to measure. I mean,
Yeah.
looking at it quantitatively
worked.
is one thing, but some qualitative observations, like I was in terms of being visible in the community beyond at the building level, like maybe we hold office hours outside of our regular Board of Ed meetings. You know, we go on that traveling listening show, where we go to where the community is at hours where they are available, not just a Monday night that might coincide with a city council meeting, or at 3:30 when some are still working. So really being accessible and measuring needs and outcomes in a variety of ways.
To kind of go on that, I also had like the diversity of the staff and hearing from the diversity of families, because if you come to a lot of the district sponsored things, it seems like the makeup of the audience is kind of one noted. And what we got last time was we have 61% low income, 53% students of color. And I want to make sure that all of those families are being represented and heard and have the voice. I know the surveys go out to everybody, but making sure that we're getting out in the most accessible ways to all families and not just the ones who have ease of access to phones or being able to check their emails and things like that.
Great. So removing barriers to some of the communication or engagement, right? Okay.
I thought the student feedback that Mr. Banks did before was really great. Maybe doing that like every other year or something. I don't know if you like that or if the staff like that. I know I saw she had a couple of those, but I think that's always great too, to pop into the schools and getting direct feedback once you're there. I thought that was a fun thing to do. Again, I thought we got a lot of good feedback from that.
So those were student focus groups. Yep.
Yeah,
Got that. Perfect.
Yeah. That was a good one.
I know we've met last year with some of the student council members from all 4 high schools and was able to get feedback, and just, it was great. It was a great experience, and I would love to see, again, I don't know that this is the time or the place, but, you know, that's always great when we can get in and meet with students and hear from them and get their feedback.
So I'm hearing a couple of and I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. So accessibility, engagement, how we do what we do, right? All of those things, right? A healthy culture, right? That flooding through whatever we're doing quantitatively, that being threaded through here. Okay. All right. What else that you have written down that might connect or be another idea?
I do have transparency, and I mean, that's a nice broad word, but really pulling back the curtain on this org chart and finding those stories to tell. I think Evan and his team have been doing a really great job in digital storytelling, and I think understanding the transportation department or the curriculum department and really seeing, like, you shouldn't have to run to get on the school board to figure out all of these things, or to dig through a very clunky website to look up the meeting minutes for something that was discussed. So there's a way to tell our story and to pull back that curtain for the public to get to know us better, which could then lead to that center of belonging.
Okay.
I had transparent communication, like a feedback loop. So
That kind of ties off to something I mentioned last year to a few folks in emails. There are different ways of doing this. I think Southwest is so large that we have the ability to do it inter-district. I do know there are companies that specialize in coming in and marketing for the board. I don't want to say the word marketing as in it's like, you know, a rebrand kind of thing, but they come in and help with making sure that the points are out there. Actually, who was talking about the AI component of this thing? I bet there's even using the system you talked about earlier, putting in like the minutes and then having it put something out. That kind of popped up when you were talking about that, how that we already have systems in place, but using those more efficiently. I think that'd be great because again, I think we're large enough where we don't have to go outside to bring another company in to do something that I think you're probably like, oh man, we probably do have the ability to do it, but I don't want to admit it. Another task.
I was thinking,
but-
let me add that to my list.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to do it that way, not in that way, but I do feel like there's, I think they're now putting all this together. It's like I think that's a great way to do it. I know it's something I've been asking for a couple of years now, and I think it's now where we are now. I think we have the tools and set up to get it done. So that's
So let me take a crack at this, okay? Because what I thought
Yeah.
I heard you say was authenticity, transparency, but there's content available that's not telling the story.
Yeah.
that's not getting it out there. And we can leverage resources that would bring some of those things to life in a cohesive, more user-friendly way. And I don't mean this, but board agendas are like draconian. Like nobody
Yeah.
does business like this
No, they're
anymore,
crazy.
right? Okay, so finding ways to be innovative.
And you
For
have
me, that would
Yeah.
fall under development.
Yeah.
So I have like a development, and so that would fall under that transparency piece, the communications piece, the technology AI piece, the personnel piece, the facilities piece.
Yeah.
All of those things kind of would go under development, how we develop our programs and our departments, and then how we're developing people, you know what I mean? Like all of those pieces, for me, that's where that would go.
And with the, you guys mentioned before, with the lead, with the new pieces you guys have already had set up in place, this really ties well into there. I mean, it's places where it can go. You've got the following up on the socials really well and things like that. So you guys have been doing the groundwork for this development. And
So if I were formally assessing where we are, we're meeting you right where you are.
Yes.
Because you can immediately think of examples. Like this work is not foreign to you. We don't have to re-educate everybody. Now we step back and we think about, okay, where is there opportunity? So a lot of these themes, as you can see, funnel right back into our purpose. But by teasing them out, it will allow us to look more granularly at what does that look like as a district? What are the look-fors and evidence that we would have in a district CIP? And then how would our SSCs engage at the building level to make sure we're meeting folks where they are, right? And that is one piece that we think about. And as we tease this out, you know, we are a large district, but we value our community schools. And so I could send something out as Jamie Lusher. These people don't know who I am, most of them, right? But their teacher, their building principal. So some of those nuances will need a lot too when we come back with you, some of these themes. All right, what else? What other thoughts that can we capture?
To piggyback on something that Denise was saying, I think leveraging technology. I was especially excited about some of the ideas for the Career Academy and the technology skills in the 21st century workforce that we're hopefully preparing our learners for. Are there, like, beyond just the coding? Like, how can we, the AI task force is a great first step. So how else can we leverage, like Notebook LM, to tell that story? Better technologies to incorporate that universal design for learning into the curriculum? Or are there new technologies that our teachers are learning about at conferences that we can pilot somewhere and then scale up? So somehow leveraging the new to not replace, but to enhance.
Enhance the craft, enhance the communication, all of those pieces, right? So, very good. Okay?
For me, that would be opportunities and outcomes. So we are providing a lot of opportunities to our students. This is something that I have talked about for the last 2 years with our graduates. And you know, what is your plan after graduation? You know, when I started as a board member 2 years ago, the number was around 40% of our graduates did not have a post-graduation plan. And that's just way too high for me personally. So it's what are those opportunities? What are we missing? What are we doing right that we can do more of to engage more students and then create more outcomes for our kiddos?
I had something.
Coming at it from a strength base rather than a deficit base.
So for the opportunities and outcomes, I had something that was kind of the opportunities within the school, not necessarily what they're getting out of the school, but, and I know it was talked about at the last meeting, but Franklin Heights has the Rise Up program specifically for EL students. I know it's also used for general ed students, but I don't know if it's for ELs in the other schools as well. But I know that works really well. I actually had subbed in it a couple times. But just kind of letting the students know, the students that are struggling, the students that sometimes have fallen through the cracks in the past, that there are plans in place for them and that we'll get them there as long as they're willing to work. And then also tying into that with the opportunities for career tech. I know it keeps getting brought into the schools earlier and earlier. Is it something that we could look at, maybe programs even getting into the intermediates or elementaries, even if it's like a summer camp where they get to go, experience these things. But just giving them the opportunities as early as possible so they know when they get to high school what their options are. That was a lot, sorry.
The multiple entry points was something that was mentioned last time. And I do think that it's one of the jewels of our district. And my son figured out about a year too late that he wanted to do it. But I think had he heard about some things, he would have been on a different path a lot earlier.
We still have the Adult Learning Hub, so you just tell him that, okay? We'll get him. All right. No, this is great. This is exactly what we need.
We're all on an opportunity path. I had opportunity for every learner, and that was under my brain thought of student climate, behavior, and well-being. So that's where I tied that in at when I was processing, prepare for today.
And I think that can go into that communication, especially with parents. Yes, I know that, for example, it's scheduling week at Grove City High School, but what does that mean as a parent? And what are some questions that I can ask my child to help lead them to a conversation? Or what are some things that we should talk about before they meet with their guidance counselor? And not just at the high school level, but even at the lower levels, age-appropriate discussion points for parents. So yes, you had an active, you had a lockdown drill. How do I talk to my second grader about that when they get home and say, we had to be real quiet in Mr. So-and-so's room? I was like, I'm sorry, what? So age-appropriate communication that can empower parents to become engaged with the day-to-day with their children.
Can I needle at that? Because I think there was another piece to that I want to make sure I pull out. I thought I heard you say like that personalization as we think about student academics. So obviously developmentally appropriate, we're talking about some of the more operation safety kinds of things, but talk a little bit about academic personalization because that's what I thought I heard you say. So let's play this out. I'm a freshman. I don't know if I should take honors bio or regular bio, or if the career academy's for me, right? We are still a systematic institution, right? And we're designed for the masses. But what I thought I heard in there was how to create opportunity to personalize pathways for students.
Yeah.
And not be a parent who, and what I mean, I've been in this seat, right, where you think you're making all the right choices, but then they have a different idea and you're 2 years into it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So helping them navigate and understand the landscape and the choices, but still giving them opportunities for some of that personalized, almost like coaching.
Yeah, I mean, didn't there used to be like a transition portfolio or something that the state did? And I'm sure that it was from way up high and then execution, and then it wasn't a thing anymore. But personalized transition programs like that, or just like leading questions, a workbook of some sort that a parent can sit down with their student. We have parent-teacher conferences, but we don't have parent guidance counselor or parent career going on. I can see in the individual units, but what about that big picture planning to help you help your student?
And I think as a parent, as a consumer, there are so many opportunities now because you've got CCP, career tech, this, and they all have different rules. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, a school district passes the baton and the institution's taken over, right? So, okay, this is good.
Right.
That's what I just wanted to make sure I heard you the right way.
I've talked before a lot about modules.
Yeah.
And this is what makes me think of that is, we do modules for our staff for training purposes, but what about using modules to engage our families? As an 8th grader, we're pushing modules to our parents through Infinite Campus, what's available at your high school, what's coming up, what's going to be available at the Career Academy, or at your high school. It's a CTE program, but it's going to be available at your high school. Those types of engagement pieces that isn't necessarily another email, another letter that I've put in the recycling and forgot all about, and now it's time to register classes, and I don't know what we're doing. My kid
So another
Doesn't
group,
know what he's doing
another
either,
group of
you know.
stakeholders back to student learning, but still also leveraging technology
Yes,
to get it out there in a way that's not as overwhelming and gives them clear information. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
How does the Zello program, are we still using that? To School Links?
We have currently a built-in system for grad plans for all students. It's a one-stop shop. It also helps them with school, college, career, military stuff.
Awesome.
We will have this all rolled out.
Shh.
I
I want them right here.
No,
They have to
no.
stay with me
I
here.
asked.
We're gonna
No,
get
I knew
there.
it. I was like, there's has to be a thing. Well,
They've got to get it out first,
No.
and then we.
No.
Okay. No.
I don't like reinventing the wheel. He's got the
Leading all up to
but
you,
part of
Dr.
it is but one thing I always liked, and I encourage once I learn more about Zello, I want to learn more about it, and then more things are coming. But can parents interact with these pieces? Again, I know it's all about students being independent and doing their own thing. You know, I think we like send them on their way at like age 5 now, and they have to do it all. But is there still a piece like with all of these programs and things like you can't tell me? Darn it! All right.
I was just kidding, Dr. Shuey. You can certainly answer.
You don't have to.
No.
You don't have to. We can wait. We can wait. But that I feel like okay, because that would be. I feel like that is like I'm like there has to be something out there. I swear I thought I read.
I just
something
got
about
trained on
this.
School Links. There is stuff for
Okay.
parents.
Yeah, I'm like there's things about this.
No, and so you're exactly right. So part of the health of doing this is that the people here that are committed to the work and passionately involved are like, oh my gosh, we're doing this. I can't wait. Like you get excited about it, right? And further, we stole Jared Carr, who led the process with School Links in Columbus. And so he's been instrumental in some of those pieces. So this is why we do this, because recognize that all these ideas we have are valuable. But to Dr. Bowser's point, we can't be everything to everyone all the time when our two primary functions are this. You getting this out there meets us where we are and where we see some of these opportunities and continued areas to develop. So no, that's great. I was just joking with you, Dr. Shuey.
So can I ask about School Links? Sorry, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. Just, but with School Links and talking about opportunities and outcomes, especially with our EL population and our special education students, you know, parents, I know I speak from experience, you know, when my kiddo was getting ready to graduate and we're like, now what? Not really, now what, you know? And so I think, again, either a School Links or modules or things like that where we can engage with families and provide a little bit more support or information about what the next steps are, you know, especially for our EL population, our special education parents. It's a terrifying space to be in. And for a lot of those families, it would mean the world. And you probably are doing a lot of those things, but I think just the ease or, you know, if I saw a little 20-second video, you know, in my kid's Infinite Campus about, hey, reach out to, you know, OOD, we partner with them, yada, 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 you know, and you're like, oh, wait, what is that? And then I get with my teacher or my counselor and have that conversation, again, using that technology piece just to be providing those opportunities, make sure we are reaching those folks.
Literally, your choose your own adventure.
Yes.
Okay.
Are we still just saying things? Which part are we on? Which part are we on right now, Jamie?
We're in dialogue.
Okay, is that what you want to call it? Yeah. I'm not sure where the parking lot is right now, but I know I learned that.
Right
before.
here, Dr. Bowser's all over. But also rest assured that we're going to collect everything you've
I'm going
written.
to decipher that later.
And then Kate's going to put that together for us, so we have that all captured.
Okay.
Yes, and we'll have that all captured, and then we're going to take a crack at starting to synthesize and aggregate some of that and themes.
Yeah. I'm trying to check off my card to see if I said everything, but I think one thing that's kind of tying into some of these things, I know we saw behavior went up there a few moments ago with Camille, and again, being this, start of the third year, trying to see some of the things that have already been implemented and seeing the benefits of some of those things. The data from the cell phones, is there any sort of data out there that can tell us like the reduction of cell phone use has been positive in any way yet? I know Southwest was one of the leaders in the reduction of cell phone use. I'm interested to see if there's any statistics out there on just where the numbers are. It might be a lot of data to try to grab maybe, but seeing how the behavior, seeing how the reading scores. I know I was in a classroom once a couple years ago and the teacher pulled out a folder and it was like this big of like cell phone violations. Is that folder still there? Is it still growing or is, are those things less now because students are more interactive in their classroom? So I don't know what you pulled from that, but some sort of follow-up to know, hey, this is working, and because there's no cell phones, now we're able to do this in the classroom, or now there's like a new opportunity to grow here. So I don't know if something's come from that. Might be nice.
So I want to dig at that a little bit because I think it's important. So what we're talking about is evidence used to make decisions, right? So what is the effect size of that policy as we look at the disruption to the learning environment? Perhaps the amount of content a teacher can get through as a result, those kinds of things. But if we step back from that, we also want to create that mechanism for anything that we think, again, if learning is the constant and everything else is the variable, we played with the variable of cell phone use.
Yeah.
So as a system, we've got some of the sharpest minds from Robert Kramer to our data team to our folks, executive directors that look at that. But that's a great example of a look for evidence, right?
Yeah.
So we can definitely, that's what I would say a rich task that has a broad utility for any time you make a decision that becomes a declarative, that becomes a policy change.
One thing I had was looking at horizontal planning, not just in the buildings, but district-wide. So seeing what works at schools at the same level. I know Mr. Winter was talking about like learn more after 4 and the whatever before the bus, and I don't remember what that's called. But like taking that to the other middle schools, letting them see how it works, and then taking what the other middle schools are doing and seeing how that could be implemented to try to cause growth in all of the areas where it's needed.
So we're looking at inter-rater reliability and then consistency across buildings as well as vertical articulation, right? So that's what we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, creating those learning communities across, I like the horizontal angle of it.
That's what we call it.
Okay.
Did I say, and it might, I can't remember, I'm looking at Brian's subgroups and circles.
This is my brain.
I know, that is your brain. We're like inside of it.
And this is why we're a good team. This makes me terrified.
Whiteboard.
Professional development. I think I said it, but I was like, are we lumping it?
It's on there somewhere.
I was like,
No,
I think
you haven't mentioned it yet.
I haven't. Okay, put it so that word is somewhere, but the professional development piece, and my thought process on it is about ensuring that we are expanding that development across all areas of the district.
Not just educators.
Not just educators.
Amen.
Like, I think we could improve at making sure that we are spreading it beyond just the educators and seeing what other groups feel like they also feel like they need.
So relevance, fidelity, all those things, right? Across all stakeholders.
You got it.
Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay. So here we are. Have you heard common themes? I certainly have.
Yes.
Right? If we go back, go to the next slide, sorry. Nope, go back to go to the end. The end. Wait, now go back one. There we go. Okay. Let's do this. My linear left brain is, I need some coffee. Okay. So again, if you think about where we are and where we're headed, right? So we've transitioned between dialogue and discussion. Any things that you've elevated that are on paper, our team is going to have those put out so that you can see what we've captured from your independent work and then some of the shared discourse that we've had. Our team will look at this and we will create a structure where we can start orienting to decisions or declaratives. All right? But again, if we go, now next slide. Thanks, Meredith. All right? We go back to this piece when we reflect and we identify the priorities that you've elevated. I think we need to ask ourselves, will they sharpen our focus on areas where we feel like the real work matters? So said differently, are these the walls we want to put our ladder on, right? And if learning is the constant and everything else is the variable, we think about those two fundamental beliefs, and that is our overarching vision. And as I said, what comes out of Dr. Bowser's department is the most important work we do, and those are his goals. I think it's safe to say that every one of these smaller pieces or these themes can work in unison under those two umbrellas, right? And then by doing so, you create connection across our buildings, vertical alignment, but then also, to your point earlier, with those organizational rules, you leverage your resources, and we understand what the work is. So Dr. Bowser and I will have failed in this exercise if we walk out of here and that chart stays like that. Okay, I assure you that will not happen. But that's the process, right? So, and again, this is not a final piece. This is a conversation starter to get an idea of the things that you find the most important that we need to elevate upon the shoulders of the work that's already been done. And then to build in enough grace that if federal law changes or state law changes and we have to be agile or nimble enough to adjust and adapt, that we've been around long enough to know that's a possibility, right? Okay. So at this time, Dr. Bowser and I are going to collect anything that you'd be willing to give us that's an artifact of the priorities you might want to elevate.
I can email
Okay,
you my notes.
thank you. I'll give you these. All right, and so the next steps will be for us to take that information. Kate will work to get that all captured. We'll work with our team to start to categorize and to put these into what we feel like are high yield areas where we could have the most resources and leverage to align under those unifying principles, some themes. Okay, and then we can start thinking about the evidence that we might use to determine our effect size, whether it's as leaders, as part of professional development, as programs, any of those things. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, so this is a natural transition. I'll leave it to our board president to take the next steps.
I can't thank the two of you enough.
Yeah.
That was huge to be able to help facilitate and allow our brains to be able to put it out there. So thank you. I appreciate it. We are now going to adjourn for executive session. It is recommended that the Board of Education adjourn to executive session according to Policy 0166 to prepare for conduct or review negotiating or bargaining sessions with public employees, security arrangements, and any emergency response protocols for the school system, and to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Liskini.
Can I get a second?
Second, D'Angelo Steele.
Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Mrs. Alkire,
Yes.
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Should we say that we are finishing the meeting after?
Yes, we will return from this meeting, this executive session, with additional items for action to take place.
Checkity, check, check, 1, 2, check.
Good evening, we're gonna get back in session. Can I get a roll call?
Mrs. Alkire,
Here.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele,
Here.
Dr. Dillon,
Here.
Ms. Liskini,
Here.
Mrs. Peterson.
Here. We are now going to continue our agenda for this evening, and I am bringing forward any board reports.
Do I have anything? Can I give props to Ms. Peterson and Liskini for the new library feature from Infinite Campus? I'm super excited about that. I've already had a couple phone calls and I've been able to direct them to that new link. So for all of you who don't know, we've been really expanding on our technology we have throughout the district and what's available. Oh, who was it? Oh, about Dr. Bowser. Oh, Dr. Bowser, thank you. He helped with this too. Getting the, if you're curious, if you're a parent in the district, a family member in the district, you can access your students' school library on the Infinite Campus now, and I think that's really great. There's a little trick to it. I had a small issue when I first started, but it was resolved really quickly. It takes you to a link, and you can have access to it. But I think it's great. I had parents calling and asking if they can go into the building and see it, which you can, but now they're able to go through the library with their student and pick choices that their student wants to read. So it was pretty great. I'm really excited that you two got that with your team, got that to fruition. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, moving along. We are now going to go to public participation relative to agenda items. We have one sign up this evening with Joseph Harris.
Good evening, friends and neighbors. Life happened and I failed to act.
Allow you to get some of your time back.
There,
There you go.
okay, there's a light on now. Good evening, friends and neighbors. Life happened and I failed to adequately prepare remarks on this subject as I had intended, so I'll simply ask that later in this meeting, before you vote on continued involvement with the NSBLC and the various other organizations that were joined last year, you discuss on the record exactly what each of these groups offer our district. I particularly enjoyed hearing this afternoon, about how our district helps our students who are English language learners. And that made me wonder if any of you can tell me which of these groups' websites says, quote, non-English speaking students provide an unacceptable cost for taxpayers to bear, end quote. And who would choose to associate themselves with this sort of xenophobia? Also, when guidance counselors were mentioned earlier, it reminded me of the article I saw 6 months ago from NBC4 that said that our school district has by far the worst guidance counselor to student ratio in Central Ohio at 677 students per guidance counselor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda, I'm going to turn it over to Board Member Chelsea Alkire for our Student and Staff Achievement and Liaison Report.
Thank you, President Peterson. So for student achievements, we have several. Congratulations to Westland High School's Breaker Heller, who has been named the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center Boys Athlete of the Week for December 29th through January 4th. Heller tallied 42 points, 16 assists, 13 rebounds, and 6 steals in 3 games during that span. Congratulations also to Central Crossing High School and Grove City High School competition cheerleading teams that competed at the OAC Cheer Championship last month. Grove City earned first place finishes in both the large non-tumble, non-build and large game day building divisions, while Central Crossing placed second in the large non-tumble, non-build division. Great job, Greyhounds and Comets. Also, congratulations to our 2025-2026 OMEA All-State Choir, All-State Band, and orchestra members from Southwestern City Schools who performed at the state conference. From Central Crossing High School, we had all-state choir members Noah Abbey and Lydia Alexander. From Grove City High School, we had all-state choir members Lily Frazita, Jackson Nelson, and Maria Radia. All-state band members Alex New, Chance Swayze, and Noah Mastelek. And all-state orchestra members Colin Nickerson and Nolan Gross. From Westland High School, we had all-state choir members Salomia Antuniuk and Maxwell Cash, and all-state band member Owen Cruz. We also had, which this is a new one, I just added it on, so I'm going to try to make sure I got it right. But congratulations to Franklin Heights High School. Tristan Spalding had his 100th career win in wrestling this week. So,
Right.
yep. And then for staff achievement, last week we compiled our first semester district K through 12 library checkout totals, which saw over 156,000 print checkouts, 5,326 renewals, and 4,575 ebook checkouts. So thank you to our Southwestern City Schools library team members across the district for helping foster a love for reading and research among our students. Your great work does not go unnoticed.
Thank you. Now moving forward, per our amended agenda, we're going to go to items for action with collective bargaining agreement with the Ohio Association of Public School Employees, and I'm going to turn that over to Vice President Julie Liskini.
Thank you, President Peterson. This evening, we have the collective bargaining agreement with the Ohio Association of Public School Employees. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the collective bargaining agreement between the Ohio Association of Public School Employees, Southwestern City Schools Local 211, and the Board of Education, effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. After reviewing this, I move it for approval.
Can I get a second?
Second, Alkire.
Now we will have discussion. I just want to share that, as many of you know, there have been some important developments regarding the contract negotiations since our last meeting. The board would like to sincerely recognize the dedication and good faith efforts of both the district and the classified union negotiation teams. Through continued collaboration late into the early hours of Friday morning to reach a tentative agreement, which was then ratified by the union on Saturday, February 7th, 2026. This agreement reflects a shared desire and commitment to move forward with stability and partnership while maintaining a strong and supportive educational environment for our students and staff. It also recognizes the essential everyday contributions of our classified staff and thoughtfully addresses both the immediate and long-term needs of our students, our district, and our families we serve. We are truly grateful to have reached this point together. With that, I open it up for additional discussion from our board members, and if hearing none, I will start roll call. Roll call, please.
Ms. Liskini.
Yes.
Ms. Alkire.
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele.
Yes.
Dr. Dillon.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes. We now will continue our agenda with items for action under fiscal and operational management with Dr. Dillon.
Thank you, Madam President. If you weren't here earlier, we have split up our fiscal section. We will be discussing and voting on items 1 through 6 and 13, and items 7 through 12 will be discussed and voted on separately. Our first is the revised permanent appropriations for fiscal year 2026. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the revised permanent appropriations for January 2026, CX1. It is recommended that the Board of Education, in accordance with Section 135.14 of the Ohio Revised Code, approve January investments, CX2, and our cash position report, CX3. Our payment of bills, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve payment of bills according to the list of checks for the month of January 2026, CX4. An authorization to pay bills in accordance with Section 5705.41 of Ohio Revised Code. It is recommended that the Board of Education authorize the treasurer to pay bills for the month which were not processed in accordance with Section 5705.41 of the Ohio Revised Code, CX6. And the creation fund of an IEP conference fund, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the creation fund 022-9908 IEP conference fund as presented, CX7. And then item 13, resolution to authorize the purchase of buses. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the bids as organized by Meta Solutions from Rush Truck Centers of Central Ohio, Inc. for 8 83-passenger school buses, 4 48-passenger with lift buses, and 2 30-passenger school buses, each equipped with digital video systems, at a total cost of $2,206,158.40. This capital purchase will be made from the Permanent Improvement Fund. 4?
Yeah.
I missed one?
Donations.
Oh. Not but not least, our donations. It is recommended, thank you. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the donations of $3,527.35 as detailed in X5 and authorize letters of appreciation to be sent to the donors. I hereby move for these to be voted on. Sorry.
It's okay. Our brains is tired. Can I get a second?
Second, Liskini.
Any discussion of those items?
I have one question,
Yes.
kind of piggybacking off of what Justin was talking about earlier. He was mentioning about how some of those buses have those upgraded signs and LED things, reflective things. I meant to ask him then, do we need to approve anything to get our other buses up to that same standard? Does that make?
That will probably come.
Oh, my, there you are.
I was about to say.
Oh, it would be? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I'd assume when we get to that point, you would bring it forward then.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, what was next?
No, good point, because we were talking about that earlier in our visioning session.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Mrs. Alkire,
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, starting with items 7 through 12 are separate organizations in which we, the board, authorized to join as a part of. Some of these memberships cost money, some of them are free, but regardless of the cost, we would be associated with them should the board pass membership with these organizations. Number 7, I move for the board to renew our membership in the Ohio School Boards Association. It is recommended that we renew our annual membership with the Ohio School Boards Association for calendar year 2026, including subscriptions to the School Management News in the amount of $10,505, CX8. I would like if we could vote on each of these individually rather than a group.
Accept. We will do that.
So I move for a vote on this.
Correct. Can I get a second to move this for a vote and discussion?
Second, Alkire.
Now we can have discussion.
I think it's, especially for the new people on the board, I've been OSBA's trustee and delegate for the last 2 years. I also reached out to OSBA while I was running for school board. I didn't get any feedback from them when I was running for school board, unbeknownst to me at the time, how involved previous board members were with OSBA. And so I'm not sure if that played a factor into them not helping me. I know that OSBA this past year rolled out some really cool new things, helping school board members running for school board and having a separate entity for that. So that's really great that they did that. And thanks to our discussion we had last year, I found out in November that the OSBA has updated their bylaws to accommodate more flexibility with school boards and allowing them to have more time to have discussions about OSBA and what it's all about. So that was really great to hear also how some of the changes have happened with OSBA. So I know I myself have taken a few courses with OSBA. I'm not sure if you guys have. I know they've already had some this past January, the School Board 101 and onboarding classes and things like that. So, and each of those are at in addition to the fee that we're paying now. And with this cost, Garside, if you can remind me what comes with the $10,000.
So we get some benefit from the school management news, and we also get some benefit from their efforts with looking at public education as a whole, making sure that our voice is heard at the state level with certain legislators. So that's a big part of it. Also, the Capitol Conference, we get a break on our anybody who wants to attend the Capitol Conference. That's another big event that happens every year where there's a lot of education, a lot of ability to meet with different vendors and different things like that. So I would say that those dollars pay for those types of services.
And board docs discount is too, right?
We get a board docs discount.
Has it ever been discussed to use OSBA for policies, or do we used to use Dr. Lesher? I didn't know if there's a discount on that or if it.
You're dating me, but yes, years ago. So there's really two primary organizations you can use, OSBA or Neola, and they're similar. Like whenever the decision was made that predates me, they went with Neola, but they are similar and like. The other thing that OSBA offers you is Legal Ledger, which is a review of extant like legal and case law that change. Additionally, when contracts are settled, they put together a compendium of those that have the percentages for the state, both classified and certificated. And they also have the free legal services, but they cannot offer you counsel. But if you call and you want to say, have I not thought about Ohio Revised Code or is there case law in this area, they can give you some advice.
And that's available to all board members. They have a phone number on their website that you can call and ask them those questions. So, and like she said, it's not legal advice. It doesn't replace your legal, but they can offer insight in those things, counsel. Thank you. Thank you.
I feel that OSBA has been valuable to me as a school board member coming in. And this past year's conference, I don't know what was different about it, but it was, to me, extremely beneficial. The topics, the different sessions, I really, really learned a lot this past conference year, and it was at a different level, and it challenged my mindset at a different level than the past 2 years. So I will say that I thought it was extremely beneficial. I do like the fact that they have a lot of the webinars, the trainings. I have taken some since November. I took one over, I think, December or right before we were coming back from break. And so it has been very helpful to use them as a resource and ask some questions. Any other feedback before?
Nope. I wanted to point out also that the payment for OSBA, there's Ohio Revised Code 3313.87 that says money to pay for this can come from the general fund. So this is an association membership, so it can come from the general fund. And the general fund is separate from the other fund that we voted on the organizational meeting, the service fund.
All right. If I hear no more further discussion, can I get a roll call?
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Mrs. Alkire,
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, great. Number 8 It is recommended that the Board of Education renew its membership in the Ohio Education Policy Institute for calendar year 2026 at an annual cost of $1,500. The Ohio Educational Policy Institute, for a little background, focuses on fixing funding in Ohio. It is data-driven and provides objective analyses to assist public school boards in understanding and advocating for fair funding.
Can I get a second to bring this to a vote and discussion?
Second, Liskini?
Discussion?
I have a question. Did anybody see the newest legislation introduced at the Senate level stating that, I'm not sure if this organization and the money for this qualifies, but there's conversation happening that if you are involved in different legislative that goes against what the state's trying to do, then they can stop your funding. So they don't want you to use taxpayer dollars to stop what the state is trying to do. Did anybody see that article?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. And I don't think that this would interfere with that, but just something to be mindful in the future, kind of what we talked about during the visiting session. Like, it's always what's coming down from the state level, what's happening, are we in compliance with, and how can we ratify it if not? Sure.
What I would offer is that if, with the pending legislation and the pending action, if you will, what you want to look for would be any class action or legal cases or lawsuits that the district would be involved in. So that might be if you're discerning what it would be compliant or non-compliance with what the proposal is, that's how I might think about it.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just say from my experience with this group, they're more of a think tank. It's more of a data-driven organization that provides a lot of information. I go to their annual meeting every year and get a lot of really good information from Howard Fleeter as far as what he puts together. Might be a little dry to listen to, but I get a lot of good information.
Thank you for sharing that, Hugh. I was going to mention that there is a few district staff members that feel it is beneficial to them and has helped them with their work.
Mhm.
Any additional discussion? Can I get a roll call?
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Mrs. Liskini,
Yes.
Mrs. Alkire,
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, it is recommended that the Board of Education vote on a resolution as presented to join the Ohio School Boards Association Legal Assistant Fund, whereas the Southwestern City School District Board of Education wishes to support the efforts of other boards of education to obtain favorable judicial decisions, and whereas the Ohio School Boards Association Legal Assistance Fund has been established for this purpose, there be resolved that the Board of Education hereby resolves to participate in the OSBA Legal Assistance Fund for the calendar year 2026 and authorizes the treasurer to pay the Legal Assistance Fund $250.
Can I get a second to move that item for vote and discussion?
Second. D'Angelo Steele?
Discussion?
I'm not sure what 250 covers, but might as well.
I was about to say, this one is
250.
pretty.
Yeah,
Dollars.
dollars.
Yes, that
Dollars.
was
$250.
250, not 250,000. I think this one was pretty straightforward for everyone.
Yeah.
Perfect. Hearing no further discussion, can I get roll call for that item?
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Mrs. Alkire,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, number 10 is a resolution to participate in the National School Board Leadership Council. The action is up for vote for the Board of Education to approve the following members who would like to join the National School Board Leadership Council for the 2026 calendar year at a cost of $1,500 per year for each board member who would like to join. I'll give a little background on this. It was referenced in public commentary regarding agenda items. I do not believe our school board, in good conscience, should be associated with the National School Board Leadership Council. They besides what was discussed about segregating special education and seeing English learners as a drain on resources, they also welcome, quote, competition, end quote. And we're not Target, we're not a for-profit institution. We can't raise prices or lower salaries as a whim in order to compete with private and charter schools that don't play by the same rules. I will be a hard no on this.
Dr. Dillon, you beat me before discussion, so I assume you are bringing it forward for a vote.
For a vote.
And discussion.
And discussion, and everything I just said.
Can I get a second for it to come forward for a vote and discussion?
Second, Alkire.
Now we can have additional discussion on this topic. Other board members to share?
When I look at the website and the documents that come from it, I don't know, can you guys hear me? It just seems like it's part of a more broad umbrella organization that goes against what we're here for, which is to give children free public education. That's what the board is sitting here to do, is to give the children in our district the best opportunities, all of the children, not some of the children. And if you look at the NSBLC website, it very clearly calls out certain subgroups of our district, and that to me is not acceptable.
Any other discussion? I will share mine last.
Sure. Yes, we have been a part of this. We voted last year to be a part of NSBLC, and I disagree with what the other two board members have mentioned. NSBLC is to train school board members to be more effective and to create dynamic, vibrant educational environments for all students. I have attended different trainings, webinars. They do have their annual fee, but all of their webinars and trainings have been free. I have participated in many, and they have very relevant information. They utilize professionals from around the country to present on numerous topics, everything educational, and how to advocate for your students, how to be a better, more transparent district in terms of finances, curriculum, all of those things that we talk about here about being transparent and pro-student are all of the things that that they are about. So that's my 2 cents. And
I'll go. If you want to go last, I'll go next. Yeah. I'm going to bring up Ohio Revised Code 3315.15, which states that reimbursing for professional training and development, that comes out of a service fund. So technically what the NSBLC is, it is not a membership sort of thing as OSBA is. OSBA is that larger membership as a board kind of organization, whereas NSBLC is more of the professional training and development continuation of. So technically, this topic doesn't actually need to be voted on as a board. I do know that history has it in Southwest where you do vote on these things. This is sort of like if I was going to take an OSBA 101 training, and it costs $150 to take that training. That is something that typically like goes by the board president, and they are like a yay or a nay, thumbs up sort of thing. So to have the conversation on NSBLC and is interesting. I don't want to jump ahead to the other two that are on here, but those are no cost and don't actually need to be discussed. But I know they were discussed last year as a board for the first time. But with that information out there that this is, I'm not sure the technicality of it. I know we don't have legal counsel present right now to kind of bounce things off of. But, and I think it's okay that we're having this discussion about it in a public way. But if we want to, get into the nitty gritty of what is, following procedure and how to do things in a correct and proper manner, I know we're really concerned about doing those things. I think that's something we need to look at in the future when we bring these things forward. But yeah, NSBLC is National School Board Leadership Council is one of those organizations that, again, when I was becoming a board member, I reached out for help and they reached back out and gave some insight and gave some help on those things. I think that anything taken out of context could sound really great or really awful. And I do think that when you pick and choose certain phrases to use from certain websites, yeah, it could sound kind of bad. But at the same time, let's take it back to what we just talked about with the English language learners we talked about earlier. We did have a discussion about how expensive it is in that department, and we would like to give more money in that department. And I do know that that conversation, again, was completely taken out of context with NSBLC, and they are a great resource since they are more national than OSBA. OSBA has CASABA, which we know is national, and you can be a part of that, a part of that automatically. But what NSBLC has done is, they have connections in Arizona, and they're actually doing some research for me on what is Arizona doing with their English language learners. What are they doing that's productive? And I do think that being from a diverse district that we are, by being a part of all the different organizations we possibly can be, is a great way to make sure we are meeting the needs of everybody in our district. Not everybody in our district fits into one category. And if we were to go with just one organization, I think we're going to really limit ourselves to what information that we were privy to.
Thank you for sharing that, Board Member Denise. What I am going to ask for our audience.
Madam President, I don't mean to interrupt you, but just a point of order that it wasn't picked or cherry-picked, it's their mission statement.
Yeah. Okay. Pause. One, I'm going to remind our audience that we're going to be respectful and allow for all to speak and have discussion. We will not all have the same opinion, but we all are allowed to speak freely and share our thoughts. What I will say is, first I like to first allow for the board members to give their input before me as the president, because it gives me a chance to first hear from you. Second, Denise, I understand that you're saying we did not have to bring these items forward, but they were brought forward last board year, and they were brought forward as a vote. So therefore, I am bringing it forward as a vote tonight in this board year, because it was taken in that manner and format last board year. My feelings with this particular council and leadership, and I will say I give all groups, organizations, the board, majority board voted for it, and I took the year or the time frame that we had from when we passed it to do what I consider due diligence. Let me have a different frame of mind, and I read every email that came through. I went through their website. I clicked on different things to learn more of the organization or entity, however you want to reference it, because that's what I should do as due diligence. I'm going to be very honest. As a person of color, that entity does not align with me, does not align when I read it to what Southwestern City School District is value. It is in their mission, their vision, their philosophy. They use terminology that I just don't think is acceptable to describe populations of our students, populations of our families, populations of our community. That is what I will say. And even with trying to read it and take it in from different perspectives, I just don't understand in 2026 why we are using the word segregation to describe any population of individuals. I just don't understand it. So that is my take on the National School Board Leadership Council. What I am going to now do is stop with discussion and move it for roll call so that we can continue on with our other entities to discuss.
Dr. Dillon,
No.
Mrs. Alkire,
No.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
No.
Number 11, to bring a vote that the Board of Education join in the Ohio School Board Constitutional Coalition for the 2026 calendar year at no cost.
You're bringing that forward as a vote and discussion?
As a vote and discussion.
Can I get a second?
Second, Liskini?
Discussion.
In the research that I have done on this organization, they are aligned and engaged with the NSBLC, which in and of itself is nothing bad. They advocate English only. They consider truth-telling of our history as, quote, anti-American. And in each paragraph on their homepage and in their About Us, they focus on, quote, like-minded individuals, end quote.
Any additional discussion?
I'll talk next. OSBC.org has been, again, one of those really great organizations that set up school board members for success. They have classes, they offer information to those who are running for school board and give a lot of information. And just even I've been to so many OSBA events now, I'm going to, the year before last, they even presented at OSBA conference, and we did, I was a part of that. We did a no cell phone class, and it was really well received. OSBA was really impressed with the presentation that we gave. Thank you to those who attended. I know some of you were there. That was really cool to get in front of the legislation to ban cell phones. So that was really great. It was in Sallyfield, and Kathy McFarland both came up to like, how did you guys all connect? This is amazing, because we're from all over Ohio that presented this together. It's not like we were all just right here. We were from all parts of Ohio. And so that was really great. OSBCC.org is trying their best to integrate into OSBA. And so it's kind of funny to see them here, because they're trying to become another entity of OSBA. OSBA has very many different coalitions and different threads of who they have as a part of their group. So OSBCC.org is not trying to become anything like a membership-based or like a big organization to, do all of these things. It's a really small grassroots kind of group of folks who are just there to help out, with the little things. But again, their goal is, and they were working again with Dr. McFarland before she left, and she's gone now, so we're trying to pick that conversation back up again. But it'd be really cool here the next year or so when OSBCC is a part of doing more classes at OSBA and having more breakout sessions with them. So it's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot of good in there too.
I too have attended several classes with OSBCC. Again, they are a thread of OSBA and working more grassroots where they hold leadership trainings for folks who want to become school board members. What does that mean? What does that look like? How you run a campaign, all the ins and outs, those kinds of things. I know that they have presented at OSBA. And again, not trying to be a separate entity, but they are a thread of OSBA that provides more of that local piece rather than a national piece, that local piece, and just a thread of that. So I've had a great experience with them personally.
If there is no further discussion, I'm just going to move it for roll call.
Dr. Dillon,
No.
Mrs. Liskini,
Yes.
Mrs. Alkire,
No.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
No.
And finally, it is recommended to bring to a vote that the Board of Education join the school boards for academic excellence for the 2026 calendar year at no cost. I'm bringing it for a vote and discussion.
Can I get a second for vote and discussion?
Second, Alkire.
Discussion?
In regards to the school boards for academic excellence, they are explicitly framed as anti-NSBA, or the National School Board Association. They frame themselves as an alternative to that. They challenge, quote, woke ideology, such as socio-emotional learning and anything having to do with social justice. The stickiest wicket for me is that they advocate for school boards to lead the curriculum rather than, quote, so-called experts, end quote. I know a lot, but I know that I don't know even more than that, 1,000 times fold. So I rely on our curriculum experts as well as our curriculum, our teachers who implement those curriculum to help guide us as a board towards what should be taught, as well as our Ohio laws. They're not so-called experts, they are experts.
I think one thing to consider for not just this group, but all three groups that we've talked about, is it's hard to say things are taken out of context when this is the context of their websites and their beliefs and their values. So when they're saying on their websites things like school board members should be intentionally direct and not defer to the experts, in quotations, there's no context to take that out of. That is the context of what they believe. So we can say any of these statements were taken out of context, but it's what they have posted on their websites. That's what they say in meetings. I've watched some of the meeting clips and things like that, and this is the context. School board is the context. Working to do what's right for our children is the context.
Yes, I agree, doing what's best for the students. SBAE is a nonprofit organization. It's a network dedicated to improving K-12 student outcomes by empowering local school board members. It focuses on restoring academic excellence, enhancing curriculum quality, protecting parental rights, and supporting school board governance. Again, I have attended many webinars and seminars with SBAE, and to your point about curriculum, we are not the expert on curriculum, you're correct. That's what we look to our folks to do. But what these trainings, you'll find, what they help you to do as a school board member is it gives you insight, and then it allows you to ask the questions of your team. And that, to me, is what being a good, well-rounded, informed school board member is all about, is having the information and asking your team. That's what we just talked about during our visioning session, what our goals are, what our visions are. How do we know what our goals and visions should be if we don't know what questions to ask? You know, we look to our community and our students and our staff for feedback and input. And again, going to different trainings and seminars and getting information that then go to your teams with, I think only makes you stronger and more knowledgeable and empowered as a board member.
I'll piggyback off what Ms. Liskini just said. In order, I have attended some of their seminars too and their information. We represent a very large, diverse district. If we just used one source of information, I do not think we would be doing our due diligence as a board member. I've enjoyed being a part of all of these organizations, and I do feel that with this conversation, maybe even having Popular Democracy is another group that we could probably add to this list of who should we belong to or who should we get information from. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of Popular Democracy, but it's another group of folks that you can get. They have seminars and webinars and different events to be a part of. And they send out emails just like NSBLC does and SBAE and OSBA. All of these things, I'm a part of all of them because I want to know what's going on and what the community cares about. I don't believe in viewpoint discrimination. I do believe that in order to fully understand the topic or know what's going on, you're going to have to look at both sides. Yeah, we might not always agree 100%, but at the same time, we can't discount a portion of our population just because, because they're different from who we are, because that's kind of what we're doing as a public school too, right? Having everybody work together, everybody's different. Again, we don't always have to agree, but we are humans and we should interact with each other regardless. That's one reason why I'm a part of all the organizations I can possibly be a part of, and I read through all the emails to keep up on what's happening. I have noticed that, yes, certain groups will tell you more about one part of legislation, the other groups tell you about the other part of legislation. There's a whole bunch of different things out there, and if I wasn't a part of all the organizations and paying attention, I wouldn't be doing my job as an elected school board member. No, do I agree with all of these people 100%? No, I don't agree with anybody 100%. But I do know that, again, for me to be a good steward of what I'm doing, I'm going to be a part of these and, pay attention to what's happening. I always do think it's unfortunate when people choose the words they do sometimes to get the point across, but once you get involved and once you get in it, you really do, you can pick and choose benefits from anything. You can choose to learn something from something or choose to ignore it. It's completely up to you. But if we wanted to completely discount one whole section of these folks that are out there, I really do feel like that's a viewpoint discrimination, and I don't think it's beneficial to the district.
I would like to respond to that. I don't believe any vote against any one organization is a viewpoint or ideological discrimination. I think I can speak for myself that my no vote is that I don't believe our board as an organization should be aligned with these organizations. Individuals that get things out of them, excellent. It sounds like it's free. It sounds like it's working for you. Excellent. They are not for me. I don't wish to work with them individually because of their stated mission statements and their ideologies. Yes, it's not discrimination against those views. It's I don't believe that our board, the 5th largest district in the state, should be aligned with this organization.
Now I'm going to share my thoughts on this organization. And I'm going to go and put myself out there. Because just like I said on the first one, the National School Board Leadership Council, due diligence, changing my hat, I like to challenge myself to think in multiple and different ways. Now, do this means that I'm saying I'm 100% yes or no on this organization? No. But I will say, unlike the National School Board Leadership Council, the School Boards for Academic Excellence, I was able to take my hats off in a certain mindset and thought process and look at it from a different lens, which actually struck me because it was like, okay, I could not get my brain to alter and change and think another way with the National School Board Leadership Council. But I could on the School Boards for Academic Excellence. I'm not saying I 100% am aligned with, what's on their website or their mission or their vision. But what I am saying is how they tailor their emails and their newsletters and the information that comes through it is not as offensive as the National School Board Leadership Council, is what I will say. But what I was able to do was attend actually some of their trainings, webinars, some of their things, and click on it and get tips and tricks. And what I will say is it didn't have anything to do with a philosophy or making you change your mind. It was literally, one was on financials. Mm-hmm. It was like making you think a certain way with district finances. And Hugh, working with him, gonna break it down all the way for you in multiple different parts and pieces. But I did pick up some things from it, like, oh, I wouldn't have never thought about it that way. Or, yes, that clicks a little bit more to maybe how, now I'm not saying Hugh Garside believes in none of this, you guys, okay? I'm just using him as an example to say that sometimes it did help me click maybe some things that when I was over the fiscal and operational section, it made me think about it a little bit differently in a challenging and unique way. And so, and it wasn't in a bad way. It didn't change my personal views. It didn't change who I am or what I think this district was. So what I will say is that organization did teach me some things on a school board level, taking all the other pieces and layers outside of it away. Because to me, I wanted to just hear and learn what the topic was, and what they said in the topic was something that's commonly said in different tricks and tips and ways. And so I wanted to say that because I wanted to say my brain does openly think to be able to look at things in multiple different ways. And I did get some insight from the school boards of academic excellence. In fact, I think in talking to Hugh, I might have shared that with him. So I wanted to put that out there. Roll call, please.
Dr. Dillon,
No.
Mrs. Alkire,
No.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, the final under, I gotta find my, here we are. Under fiscal and operational management, it is recommended that the Board of Education appoint a member to the OSBA Board of Trustees for the 2026 calendar year.
You're making a motion to bring it forward. Can I get a second to bring this forward for an appointment?
Second, Liskini.
Now we can have a discussion on assigning an appointed board member to be a trustee. I will put it out there. I will throw my name out there. I know many have many areas they are covering, but if there is another board member, by all means, please make me aware. But I am willing to throw myself out there and be the appointed trustee.
How many things are you already doing? Would that be a lot for you? You're on finance, you're doing
No,
policy?
I'm not on finance. I passed that over to Kelly.
Okay, on the committee?
Yes.
Okay. Who's
Kelly and Julie Liskini are covering the finance committee. And I stepped down from that when I was the board president, assigned to the board president. I serve on just the policy committee with you.
Policy, are you doing the Education Foundation still?
I am doing that.
Education Foundation?
Unless somebody interested in getting up at 7:30 in the morning.
Right, no, taking kids to school. And then insurance, who's doing the insurance?
I am on insurance.
Okay, like is that?
Insurance, Education Foundation, and if you need me to be a OSBA appointed trustee, I am willing to do it.
I don't mind doing, if I'm just doing policies, I don't mind doing it to have two things. I don't mind doing it again. It's up to you guys. Or Ms. Alcar, do you want to? No.
It's about to say, I want the first two.
So for our district, we've done, if you're a trustee, you're also the delegate.
Correct.
And those are about once a month or so. We just had our Central Region Committee meeting last Wednesday. I was on that. And so there's that. And then the trustee meetings that are, well, it depends if they're hiring a new person or not. You have a few more meetings in there when you're hiring somebody. But those weren't super crazy. It helped having a different look at last year. But it's up to you. I don't mind doing it if you're doing all those things already. I'm just on policy. I could do that too still. I don't mind. I've done 2 years already.
Do you mind or
Two?
not want?
Well, then-
Do you want to,
well,
or
then-
would you not mind?
Yeah.
You've done it too. So maybe we should let another
They
board member
it's interesting how they
get
do
on there to
the
see.
some background on trustee. So Southwestern City Schools automatically gets a trustee appointed to OSBA because we're in the top 8. A lot of folks in different regions, they have to work like crazy to get on to be a trustee. I know board members that have had to be board members for, 5 to 10 years before they can become even in the realm of becoming a trustee. So I have to kind of like laugh a little bit like, oh, we can just be on there, like one of us can represent. They have people on there that have been trustees for, I think the longest one, what has she been a bit more member of for like 35 years? Has been a part of that. I'm going to be like, I want to have a retirement party for you. Go do something else. I mean, if you want to do all those things, you can. Like I said, I don't mind doing it. I can do it too.
I want to allow for another board member, myself too, but another board member to see what OSBA being the board trustee is, so that way it allows for us to ensure that maybe we all are getting a chance to see that role and learn and dive in.
Are the meetings?
But there is, say it again.
Are the meetings during the day or are they after work?
Well, there is some in the evening. There is one coming up on a weekend, like over half of the day of a weekend.
Yeah, sometimes it's 2 days.
Sometimes it's 2 days.
2 days on the weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're
Conference last week and it was 2 days.
Yes. Yes. There is other meetings that is as well.
Yeah, for
Sometimes
OSBA
it can go
conference,
that
just
way.
be there every day.
So.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I can help out other places too if you want me to take on a.
Okay, so
you.
then
You're good.
I'm
I'll
going to
screen.
appoint myself. Okay.
Well,
I was about
I believe
to say.
we all
can-
vote on
Correct.
your nomination.
So it's
Correct.
recommend that the board
Correct.
appoint. Yeah.
Yes.
Neil Peterson. Mm-hmm.
So to be clear, it is recommended that the Board of Education appoint Camille Peterson to the OSBA Board of Trustees for the 2026 calendar year.
Correct.
Yes.
We already have a second by Julie Liskini.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Roll call, Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Mrs. Alkire,
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes. Moving along, items for action. We covered all our areas underneath there, right? You see, it was so many. I wanted to make sure after I paused. Items for action, back to Chelsea.
Thank you, President Peterson. This evening, under Students, School, and Community, we have 2 action items. The first one is the Grove City High School Show Choir has the opportunity to travel to Solon, Ohio. The trip is planned for March 7th and 8th, 2026. Students will miss 0 days of school. Approximately 100 students will be accompanied by 16 adult chaperones. Transportation will be via Southwestern City Schools bus and hotel accommodations in a local hotel, and the trip expenses will be paid by choir boosters, parents, and students. Now therefore be it resolved that the Southwestern City Schools Board of Education hereby authorize the Grove City High School Show Choir to travel to Solon, Ohio. The second item is the Central Crossing High School NJROTC, and they have the opportunity to travel to Marietta, Georgia, and Alachua, Florida. The trip is planned for March 12th through 16th, 2026, and students will miss 3 days of school. Approximately 8 students will be accompanied by 2 adults. Transportation will be via charter bus and hotel accommodations, and the trip expenses will be paid by boosters and fundraising. Now therefore be it resolved that the Southwestern City Schools Board of Education hereby authorizes the Central Crossing High School NJROTC to travel to Marietta, Georgia, and Alachua, Florida. After reviewing these 2 items, I move them for approval.
Can I get a second?
Second, D'Angelo Steele.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mrs. Alkire,
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Steele,
Yes.
Dr. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Liskini,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes. We are now moving to items for action under personnel with Vice President Julie Liskini.
Thank you, President Peterson. This evening,
Under our human resources update, there are 6 action items under personnel involving 184 persons, 8 certificated and administrative resignations and retirements, 6 certificated changes in employment, 96 certificated employments, 14 classified resignations, 15 classified changes in employment, and 45 classified employments. After reviewing these items, I move them for approval.
Can I get a second?
Second, Dylan.
Any discussion?
No, I always have to. The jury duty one, it feels so. It's like so many on jury duty every time. Every time. I don't know what it is about district employees, but man,
We have
always a jury duty.
2,700 of them, so it.
Yeah,
Statistically.
jury duty. Oh my god.
I need to knock on some wood because I haven't been ever selected. Now watch, I just messed that up in my 45 years of life.
Gonna wonder where you are at the end of the month.
It's important.
They're like, you're a social worker, we're not selecting you. Hearing no discussion, can I get roll call?
Ms. Liskini.
Yes.
Dr. Dillon.
Yes.
Mrs. Alkire.
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes. Now we are moving forward, keeping it rolling. Public participation relative to non-agenda items. We have Terry Jones. You are not the only one. Take your time.
Well, usually this is the time I stand up here and start reading scripture, but tonight, I think I'm going to save that for another evening and address something else here. Regarding the contract negotiations. Now, I believe the school board members and administration did what they had to do in deciding what was best, what was in the best interest for this district's students, and to keep your schools open and operating. Harmful disruptions that would have adversely affected students, parents, and district employees have been avoided. You guys worked well then. Secondly, any reasonable person, before tackling a big project, will first sit down and count the cost and consider all the risks involved, which leads me to address something else. For those who may be critical of all the classified staff that voted for this new contract, put yourselves in their place. A lot of these folks decided that they couldn't risk having their pay suspended and not have money coming in to meet household expenses. Like the rest of us, these folks too worry about making mortgage payments, paying utilities to keep the heat and the lights on at home, buying groceries to feed their families. It's so easy to sit on the sidelines at no personal cost to ourselves and be critical of those who would have shouldered all the risk had there been a strike. Each of those members had to count their own costs and consider the risk before deciding what was best interest for their families. Lastly, I can't end without at least reading a verse of Scripture going to the Gospel of Matthew here, and after what I heard tonight. And Jesus knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every house divided against itself shall not stand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now have Emily Harding.
Good evening. My name is Emily Harding. I currently teach 7th grade language arts at Fenland Middle School. However, I am here tonight speaking on behalf of the 1,640 members of the Southwestern Education Association. I want to share with you that on January 14th, the faculty representatives of SWEA voted unanimously to approve a statement regarding undocumented children's rights to access to K-12 public education. It reads, the Southwestern Education Association believes all students have a constitutionally protected right to a public education. Therefore, all children in the U.S., including undocumented children, have a legal right to attend public school, regardless of immigration status. Further, schools should create a welcoming, inclusive, and safe atmosphere. Some politicians want to divide our nation by shaming and blaming new immigrants and excluding undocumented immigrant children from public schools. This shaming and blaming sends the message that these students, many of whom live here so long they can only remember living in the U.S., do not deserve an education and are not worthy of being our children's friends, classmates, and teammates, and should not have the opportunity to thrive. Excluding these children from school violates the values we strive to live by as a country, such as protecting children, building strong communities and families, and fairness. SWEA acknowledges that people move every day, whether for freedom, safety, opportunity, or a mix of both, and immigrants are beloved members of Ohio families and communities. Ohio is their home. Our state is made better, stronger, and more vibrant by the countless contributions of immigrants and refugees. SWEA believes that schools, houses of worship, and other community connection points should be off limits for immigration enforcement. No one should be stopped and questioned about their immigration status while driving, working, taking their kids to school, worshiping, volunteering, or participating in community activities. Racial profiling is illegal, and SWEA loudly denounces racial profiling, hate crimes, and harassment. It does not matter if you are involved or a government or an individual or a government agency. No one should question, insult, or attack someone based on the way they look, dress, speak, or worship. As educators, we have accepted the responsibility to protect our students, every single student, regardless of their immigration status. The Southwestern Education Association believes we have a professional and moral responsibility to keep our students safe. Our job is to provide an education that inspires their natural curiosity, imagination, and love of learning. We are growing tomorrow's inventors, thinkers, artists, leaders, and yes, educators. We remain committed to using our superpower as educators to ensure every public school is a safe space for every student without exception, and to uphold the continually protected right of the students to access a free and appropriate public education. Depriving any child of an opportunity to attend public schools puts them at a disadvantage, making it difficult for them to gain the skills they need to contribute fully to society and reach their full potential. The Southwestern Education Association believes denying any child the opportunity to attend public school will ultimately hurt us all. We are now asking for you to show us support and our students' support and all of our staff. We are asking the board pass a resolution acknowledging that it is the right of every child, regardless of immigration status, to access a free public K-12 education, and to show with words and actions that the district welcomes and supports all students. We want you to ensure that all students who reside within the district's boundaries, regardless of immigration status, can safely access a free K-12 public education, to denounce any federal immigration law enforcement activities on or around district property and transportation routes that could harmfully disrupt the learning environment and significantly interfere with the ability of all students to learn, and to declare the district as a safe zone for our students. And I have a copy of that for all of you.
Your hair looks amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to continue on. Is there any items for discussion?
I just have one shout out. Monterey Elementary School is still looking for tutors. So if you know of anybody or you have some extra time or interest, please get a hold of the principal at Monterey and let her know that you are interested in doing some tutoring. We have some little readers that could use your help. Thank you. That's all.
Also, I know I believe it was Denise, you mentioned a name, and I put a little note to myself. If you all have any additional board organizations, entities, things you are thinking you want to bring forward, please bring them forward at the next meeting or any future meeting. It don't got to be the next meeting. If there is something that you also think that we should take a look at into consideration, please feel free to bring that forward so that we can all continue to do our research and look into those. I don't want anyone's mind to be shut out, but this was good dialogue, and I want to continue that openly, okay? All right, it's been a long day. I think you guys will be okay with me asking for a motion for adjournment.
Second? Or do you need a first?
I need a first.
I'll do a first then. D'Angelo Steele.
Second, Dylan.
I bet there's no discussion, so I'm going to say roll call.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele.
Yes.
Dr. Dillon.
Yes.
Mrs. Alkire.
Yes.
Ms. Liskini.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes. Thank you. Everyone be safe going home.